I opened a travel agency in the world of cultivation. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176, Shopping. As the stars got higher, more and more people came to the small square to practice magic. Most of them came for the ring. This was a place of 4 wars, and the people loved martial arts, so the fighting on the ring never stopped. Most of the monks who came here were in the key training stage, and they were not proficient in magic. They mostly won with fists and feet. The ring was also protected by a formation, so those who got on the ring would not give in on the spot, and would show no mercy. It was often seen that when the two sides were fighting, one of them was suddenly sent out by the formation. This kind of bloody fight with every knife and every fist made the people watching below shout and boo like crazy. Li Baining was also watching from below with his blood boiling. He never thought that boxing and fighting matches were interesting before. For him, a child who grew up watching martial arts, those matches were not smart and beautiful enough and did not meet his fantasy. But the ring here was different. The movements were swift and fast, dazzling the people watching, and they attacked at the place where they wanted to kill people. And there are often some unexpected small spells that can turn the tide of the battle. This ring match is much more exciting to watch than the fairy tale drama. Seeing him constantly fantasizing, if one day he can cultivate immortality, can he also come to this ring to show off his power? Even if he can't come to this ring, if he encounters a bully on campus, he can knock the other person down in one go and win the admiration of the classmates around him. Or maybe he will fly, join some special operations team, and then the organization suddenly has an emergency task, and he will fly out of the school in a hurry. Then he will definitely be on the news. The more he thought about Li Baining, the more he couldn't control the smile on his face. He felt that he was a chosen son of heaven, otherwise how could he come to the world of cultivating immortals? When Yang Zhao was going to take them to the next location at noon, he was still a little reluctant to leave. Along the way, he excitedly discussed the ring match with the former kingling and the group leader. I want to become a disciple. Yang Zhao took them along the street to visit some shops that they were interested in. Yang Zhao would carefully translate the introductions of the waiters in the shops for them. Later, she would pay for 1 or 2 items herself. The waiters in those shops were not impatient. They were familiar with these customers who use the traction beans. Even if they did not consume in their shops, their attitude was still very enthusiastic. It was a pity that the little bean people could only enjoy the sight and could not buy them to take back. But the things in these shops also opened their eyes. They felt that their worldviews were severely knocked down by these things. After strolling for a few hours, Yang Zhao took them out of the city gate in the beast cart. But when they left the city gate and saw the huge blue gold bird, Li Baining threw the arena and the shops out of the sky. A group of little bean people ran over like flying. If they were not afraid of scaring the Kaijin bird, they might have wanted to shout a few times. From the height of the little bean people, the blue gold bird looked even more handsome and huge, and the little bean people looked even smaller in front of it. Next to the turquoise bird floated a blue-white fish that was more than 4 meters long. It was alive and well without water. The fish swam in the air, floating up and down, and would jump up from time to time, making the action of jumping onto the water surface. It seemed that it had a very lively personality. Even though the turquoise bird had appeared in Yang Zhao's video, everyone was amazed, not to mention that there was such a big fish that violated the scientific view next to it. Is this the turquoise bird? It's so beautiful. That bird is still within my understanding, but what's the matter with this fish? It would be great if I could raise a turquoise bird. Why raise it? It's so big, who knows who would keep it as a pet? Then I want to raise it too. Is this the legendary spiritual beast? This is the first time I see a fish swimming in the air. How does it breathe? Maybe this thing is not a fish. It's not a fish that grows like this? The little beans couldn't help but talk about it, and Li Baining kept moving forward, as if he was possessed. If it weren't for the 2 little bean people, group leader I want to become a disciple and Zion Wangling, who tried to stop him, he would have touched the turquoise bird and the big fish himself. Although he majored in animal husbandry, it didn't affect his love for the turquoise bird and the big fish, not to mention that these two creatures can only appear in mythology. The next process was also simple. Yang Zhao asked them to sit on it and experience it. At first, the little bean people were a little scared. After all, their bodies were too weak, and no one wanted to destroy their own traction beans because of their curiosity. The main reason was that the size of these two was too big for the little bean people, and the turquoise bird could crush them to death with one foot. But Li Beining was different. He wanted to raise his hand several times, but was stopped by Xian Wanling. Group leader, I want to become a disciple, had a headache. Be honest for a while, you are like crazy when you see these two spirit beasts. Li Beining's eyes swayed wildly between the turquoise bird and the big fish. He didn't know which one to observe carefully first, and muttered a few words in his mouth. It's not crazy. Besides, isn't it normal for me to go crazy when I see these two? I tell you, if these two spirit beasts appear in my school, our class, our department, and our entire school will go crazy. Finally, Yang Zhao took Li Beining, who raised his hand actively again, to experience the blue gold bird, and the remaining little people put aside their doubts. They happily followed the two giant beasts flying in the sky, and really experienced the feeling of being a fairy or a god. Whether it was the speed of the blue gold bird or the waves brought by the big fish when flying, they were not temptations they could resist. The 10 little people had a great time, and the sky darkened. A day passed in the blink of an eye. Yang Zhao wanted to send them back, but these little cuties were reluctant to leave. Stay a little longer. I haven't tried the food here yet. Yang Zhao, I'm afraid not. Kyanji beans can't eat. Another little bean man made a suggestion. Then let's go to the night market. Yang Zhao still didn't agree. Everyone, it's not that I have to send you back, but your body has been sleeping for more than 10 hours now. It's time to go back. Anyway, protecting your body is the most important thing. After hearing her explanation, the little bean people had nothing to say, and could only wave goodbye to Yang Zhao with regret. Master Yang, next time you start a group, you must tell us. We really pay, we have money. Yes, you don't have to save money for us. Yang Zhao could only respond with a smile, and then told them how to go back. The way to go back is very simple. Just think hard in your mind. Although the little bean people were reluctant to leave, they had to go back. Chapter 177, Comeback. 4th People's Hospital. When Li Beining opened his eyes, it was already bright outside. The dazzling sunlight shone through the glass of the ward, shining brightly on his face, making him burst into tears. He opened his eyes and saw that he was surrounded by unfamiliar rooms. His thoughts were interrupted for a few seconds before he remembered that this was a ward. He was back. He was back from that magical and magnificent world of immortal cultivation. Did he really go there? Was he not dreaming? He reached out and slapped himself twice. Pa. Hiss, it hurts. Ha 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 ha. The pain called back his surging thoughts and opened the floodgates of his joy. In an instant, surging joy swept over his body. He rolled left and right with joy, and with a click, his phone fell to the ground. Then, with a bang, he fell to the ground himself. Ouch. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Finally, Li Beining was driven out of the hospital by the nurse. He smiled as he completed the discharge procedures, and smiled all the way back to school holding the winter clothes and shoes he bought. Even if the people he met on the road avoided him with eyes that looked like he was crazy, he didn't care at all. If he wasn't afraid of being invited to have tea if he shouted, he would have told everyone in the world about this long ago. He, Li Beining, is the protagonist in that TV series, the child of destiny in the novel, and the center of the anime world. When he finished his meal and returned to school, Yang Zhao released a new video. This video happened to be recorded when they went on a trip yesterday. Li Beining excitedly took screenshots, captured all the clips in which he appeared, marked himself with a small arrow, and sent it to the Yunnyang Temple Immortal Cultivation First Group. Soon, the group was flooded with his messages. Then he embarrassedly circled the group leaders I want to become a disciple and the order of the former king, and sent private messages to the two of them. Cultivation rookie, you guys are back from your travels? So soon. Cultivation first disciple, oh my god, is that really you? Or 3-inch little bean? Cheng Yi studies medicine. Oh, it doesn't look like a human. When I saw the video, I thought it was a species unique to the cultivation world. The little fish who loves plants. This looks like a plant. Do you have a detailed picture? Tao Shan Hu and Ri, sorry little fish, we didn't have cell phones when we were there, and we didn't get the photo you wanted. The little fish who loves plants. It's okay, it's okay. It's really eye-opening to see such a short plant person asterisk. Asterisk cultivation rookie. At TOU Shanhu and Ria group leader, I want to become your disciple at XIAN Wangling. Hurry up. Tell us about your travel experiences. The videos updated by the blogger are too brief. Tao Shanhu and Ri. Haha. Then I'll tell you about it. Asterisk. The subsequent narration was mainly about Tao Shanhu and Ri, supplemented by Zion Wangling, and group leader I want to become your disciple. A group of group members followed to fill in the gaps, asked questions, and finally made a summary together. Group leader I want to become your disciple. After a day of getting along, I think the blogger should be a modern young person, and she has not been there for long, and is very curious about many things, which means she is relatively easy to get along with. At least our values are similar. The former king's order. Although the blogger has the intention to make money now, she is definitely not short of money, and she is definitely deeply connected with the higher-ups. The traction beans we used to get through must have been used by many people, so in the future, the immortal cultivation techniques will be lifted in this regard on the one hand, and they will be bought with money on the other hand. Tao Shanhu and Ri, well, I haven't thought about it so much. I only know that the shops there use gold, silver and copper coins. I didn't see any spirit stones or the like, and I felt quite disappointed. The former king's order. Maybe it's because we were there for a short time and didn't understand much, but this also means that if we want to buy things there, we have to prepare some gold and silver. Cheng Yi studied medicine, then I should prepare some silver. After all, the price of gold is too expensive. Heartbroken. The little fish who loves plants. Well, although I'm interning, I really don't have any money. Asterisk. Covering face, stealing the sky, and changing the day. Pat your head. I'm the same as you. Backquote. The first disciple of cultivating immortals, so we can't find a master to learn by ourselves. The first king's order. Yes, the blogger said in his original words that the first step of cultivation cannot be completed by one person alone. I guess there are some rituals to be done. And we can't go to the cultivation world in the physical body, so we can't do the preliminary preparations by ourselves. Group leader I want to become a disciple. I guess the preliminary preparations for cultivation are related to the policy of revitalizing traditional Chinese medicine that was issued a few days ago. It is better to be cautious in this regard. Cheng Yi studies medicine. It seems that I should work hard to learn traditional Chinese medicine. Cultivating newbie. It would be great if the delusion of immortality was still there. Stealing the sky and changing the day. What are you talking about? Don't mention it. Big brother who is going to drink tea. The people in the group skipped this topic and went on to the next analysis. A certain base. The old man on the bed in the villa opened his eyes and saw a circle of doctors and nurses surrounding him. He slowly sat up from the bed. Hey, why did you call so many people? Didn't I say to call a nurse? How can you trouble so many medical workers? After a while, the middle-aged man in work clothes took the lead in admitting his fault. It's my fault. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Can you let these medical staff check your body now? Old Lou rolled up his sleeves skillfully. Check it out. Check it out. If I don't let you check it out, I'll be embarrassing you. Old Lou, what are you talking about? We are embarrassing you. As they said that, the medical workers came forward to surround old Lou and began to work busily. After a busy time, the doctors nodded one after another. Old Lou, your physical condition is very good. Just eat a meal later. Mr. Lou smiled kindly and said, I'm sorry to bother you. It's broad daylight, and we are just wasting your time at work. A young nurse interrupted coquettishly. Look at what you said. We should be paid for our work. Everyone in the room laughed. While waiting for the medical staff to go downstairs and drive away with the ambulance, Mr. Liu also sat at the dining table and finished his meal. Li Jianqing, Please help me write a report to the higher-ups later and tell them that I want to apply for the reopening of the meridians and the awakening of the spirits." The middle-aged man was a little embarrassed. "Mr. Liu, the higher-ups clearly stated that people over the age of 40 cannot participate in this kind of experiment. Besides, you've seen that many people have failed in the reopening of the meridians and the awakening of the spirits. Now only infants and young children are the best candidates for the reopening of the meridians and the awakening of the spirits," he added. Chapter 178, Faith. "I know. I've studied the information thoroughly. The risk is not big." The old man surnamed Liu chatted while changing his clothes. The middle-aged man also helped to pack up. "Mr. Liu, you still have to think carefully about this matter. Originally, you bought the quota to go to the other world privately. The higher-ups didn't agree at all. They were afraid that your excitement would affect your health. Those people are just timid. You see, each of them is younger than me, but how come they are as timid as ants?" Mr. Liu complained while putting on his shoes. The middle-aged man picked up the bag and said, "This matter is originally very dangerous. The higher-ups are also considering everyone's life safety." The two went out together. "Mr. Liu, I have been preparing for this for 2 or 3 months. Now I don't have any independent projects on hand. My performance will not affect the progress of our team." "Mr. Liu, don't say bad things. You are our guiding light and the ballast stone. Many projects have always been counting on you to find new directions for us when they encounter difficulties. You should stay away from such dangerous things as opening the meridians and starting the spirit." "Hahaha, my light is not on. Go get some kerosene. Just type the report for me." In the afternoon in an office at a base, Mr. Liu was sitting behind the desk sorting out documents when a middle-aged woman knocked on the door and walked in. "Mr. Liu is busy. Are you free now?" Mr. Liu saved the document and stopped working. "Hey, Director QIU, please take a seat. How did you come so quickly? I just handed in the report a few hours ago." Director QIU smiled bitterly. "Mr. Liu, I heard that you bought a quota for KNG beans and went to the world of cultivation." Mr. Liu said with a smile. "Yes, then you didn't allow me to go there, so I had to find another way and bought one." Director QIU looked at Mr. Liu's eyes and said carefully, "Since you can use KNG beans to go there, you don't need to open the meridians and awaken the spirit. What you are most curious about is the spiritual energy, and you can feel it with KNG beans. I want to feel the spiritual energy on our ball. Can the spiritual energy felt on other people's balls be used?" Mr. Liu stood up and wanted to pour water for Director QIU, but Director QIU took the empty cup first. "You know that many physical laws discovered on our ball are useless outside the ball." Director QIU took the cup, poured 2 cups of water for himself, and gave the other cup to Mr. Liu. "But there are always similarities. Why do you always have to worry about opening the meridians and awakening the spirits? You know very well that this method is very dangerous." Old Liu took the cup. "I know it in my heart, but the door to truth has appeared before my eyes. I will not be willing unless you let me reach out and give it a push." He took a sip of water and said, "Besides, opening the meridians and awakening the spirits follows the principle of voluntariness. You can't keep rejecting my requests." Director QIU sat back on the sofa with the cup of water. "Old Liu, we have regulations. You really don't meet the requirements at your age." Old Liu walked around the office with the cup. "We all know that spiritual energy is another kind of energy, and this energy has not been developed by anyone. As long as we can get ahead of it, this ocean of spiritual energy will be open to us. The world situation is not stable now. We propose to realize an internal circulation. How can the internal circulation be possible without sufficient energy support? Only if we put these energies into practice one step earlier can we move forward unstoppable." Director QIU, "I understand your concerns, but I'm also a mortal, and I have selfish desires. I have only 2 beliefs in my life. One is the belief in communism, which has changed my country. The second is the belief in scientific truth, and truth has changed the world. Now the truth is there. In order to see it, my old life is really nothing. I'm willing to be the first step outside the door of truth and step for the people who will pursue the truth behind me." Director QIU subconsciously wanted to refute, but Director QIU, I'm so passionate now that I can't suppress it. If you still don't agree this time, I will report to the central government. Old Lou interrupted Director QIU with a smile. Director QIU sighed deeply. Mr. Lou, do you really not consider the risks? Mr. Lou smiled and took another sip of water. Scientific truth and my life are put on the scale together. It is absolutely that scientific truth has won an overwhelming victory. My life has no weight in front of it. Director QIU, Mr. Lou, to open the meridians and awaken the spirit, you must first believe in a god. Can you believe in gods? Director QIU, you are changing the concept. People say that you are familiar with a god. Besides, I'm very sure that my belief is much better than those stone carvings and wooden blocks. Mr. Lou retorted with a smile. It has hundreds of millions of believers in this world, and its glory shines on hundreds of millions of people in this world. I firmly believe in it, and it has never wavered. Li Jing. In the past few days, the guys hired by Yang Zhao came to her with the investigation booklets to report their work. She was very satisfied with it, so she distributed today's experimental shopping bean figures to the three guys. Today you will take these little bean people out. You should speak slowly. They are not familiar with the language here. If you speak quickly, they may not understand. Don't worry, boss, we will serve these guests well. Zhang He and the two sisters thanked them happily, and then took the little bean people to visit Li Jing. Yang Zhao returned to her yard, and began to practice. Now that the three young men can do the job, she will have more and more time to practice in the future. Cultivation is accumulated over time. In the evening, Yang Zhao received a WeChat message from Guo Fuminamum Kaiang. Guo Fuminamum Kaiang, Comrade Yang, I want to ask, there is a 70-year-old man who wants to open his meridians and awaken his spirit. What can we do to ensure the success rate? Yang Zhao, do we have to let such an old man of such an old age engage in such a dangerous activity? Guo Fuminamum Kaiang, the old man has reported it several times. We just want to ask if you have any professional advice. Guo Fuminamum Kaiang, if you don't have any good solution, then we can only give him a one-size-fits-all approach, but we are afraid of hurting his feelings. Yang Zhao, he is so old, why did he have such an idea? Didn't you tell him about the dangers? Guo Fuminamum Kaiang, we have dissuaded him many times. This time you held a lottery to let your fans come to travel, and the old man bought a quota privately. It is said that after experiencing the spiritual energy here once, he was determined to open his meridians and awaken his spirit. Chapter 179, Ding Hei Pearl, Li Jing. Yang Zhao sat on the bed, frowning as she looked at the message from Guo Fumin Qiang. She immediately remembered the old man who called her Mr. Yang, who was more than 50 years older than her. At that time, he wanted to feel the spiritual energy and spiritual power, and Yang Zhao satisfied him one by one. It seems that the reason why the old man in his 70s insisted on opening his meridians and awakening his spirit was that she had a hand in it. She turned her thoughts back and focused on her mobile phone. Yang Zhao, can you give us a brief introduction to the old man? Guo Fumin Qiang, a meritorious official of the country, an unknown scholar. He specialized in basic chemistry in his early years, and later turned to physics for the country. This situation is very common among the older generation of scientists. At that time, what to study was not based on what you like and are good at, but on what the country needs. Of course, those who dare to do this are all god-level bosses, and ordinary scientific researchers should still work hard in the fields they are good at. Yang Zhao, is he known to the outside world now? Guo Fumin Qiang, originally, their information would have been released in 2 years, but since you came out, the old man has moved on to a new field. Yang Zhao had a clue when she heard Guo Fumin Qiang's reply. She thought about it carefully for a long time before replying to Guo Fumin Qiang. Yang Zhao, I don't actually support an old man of this age taking such a big risk. Yang Zhao, but if you really can't refuse, you can try to accumulate incense for the old man before opening his meridians and awakening his spirit. Guo Fumin Qiang, incense, this thing can't be seen nor touched, how can we accumulate it? Guo Fumin Qiang, at the beginning, we wanted you to find out if there are any magical instruments in this regard, and buy them to ensure his safety. Yang Zhao, I can help you find the magical instruments in Lijiang City as soon as possible. Yang Zhao, as for incense, why did he make a video? I made it because I have no other way to gather some incense except this channel. Yang Zhao, since he has made outstanding contributions, just use mainstream media to publicize it. Yang Zhao, you have to believe that the people of our country will not be stingy with their admiration for such an old man. He will soon be able to accumulate some incense to protect him from opening his meridians and awakening his spirit. Guo Fumin Qiang, I do believe in the lovely people of our country, but I feel that your method is a bit fantasy. Yang Zhao, I'm now living in a fantasy world. If you ask me for advice, I can only give you fantasy advice. There was no response for a long time. Guo Fumin Qiang replied after a while. Guo Fumin Qiang, what we mean is that both the incense and the magic tools should act together. If you have any other ideas, you can tell us directly. Yang Zhao, when you promote in the mainstream media, you must always pay attention to the public opinion on the internet. I found that incense can be affected by people's kindness and malice. Yang Zhao, in reality, there are some people who can't stand others being good, and everything they see is a conspiracy theory. If he spreads rumors on the internet, you must suppress it in time. The purer the incense, the better. Guo Fumin Qiang, got it. We will make sufficient preparations here, and hope that Comrade Yang can do his best in the magic tools. Yang Zhao, no problem. Yang Zhao closed the video software and went out to eat a big meal with the stars that had not yet set down the mountain. She came back leisurely and played a big gun again, and then stuffed the pill of today into her mouth expressionlessly. Pain is Cambridge tonight. The next morning, Yang Zhao began to ask around in various acupuncture halls. Almost all acupuncture halls recommended the heart protecting array. Almost every acupuncture hall would hire someone to set up this array. Although the price was not cheap, it was acceptable. But obviously, if the relocation array was not restored, those who could set up the array would not be able to serve the country's prosperity and the people's strength. But setting up the array required a huge amount of basic knowledge of the array. All kinds of advanced knowledge of cultivation in this world were strictly prohibited from being spread. Shenroi was not good at the array, so Yang Zhao naturally had not learned it, not to mention the young cultivator researchers in China. Helplessly, she could only use the money method to get a few useful pieces of information out of the mouths of those tight-lipped young men. Customer, there are very few magic tools for protecting the heart on the market. If you really want it, you have to find a cultivator to customize it, and there is a treasure that is better for protecting the heart. Seeing that the man shut up halfway through his words, Yang Zhao could only take out some more silver and stuff it in. Thank you, guest. The treasure I'm talking about is the Dinghe Pearl. Dinghe Pearl. As soon as the name was heard, the function of this pearl was like the golden hoop. Can it really protect the mind? Yang Zhao didn't dare to listen to the words of one family, so he could only use the money magic again and ask about the Dinghe Pearl in the market of Lijiang. This Dinghe Pearl is a pearl produced by a kind of demon snail in the sea, which is very rare. According to rumors, this demon snail lives in the deep sea of hurricanes. They move on the seabed every day, but when mating, they must swim to the surface of the sea to use the power of the wind to blow the snail eggs far away. However, the wind and waves in the deep sea of hurricanes are particularly huge, and the snails cannot mate peacefully in such a big wind and waves. So the snail naturally gave birth to this pearl, and waited for the pearl to stabilize the wind and waves. After mating, they swam back to the bottom of the sea, and the wind and waves that rose again would surely roll the snail eggs far away. The main function of the Dinghe Pearl is to be used for sea voyages, stabilize the waves, and protect the crew and cargo of the ship. Protecting the mind is just a byproduct of its function. It is said that those ships that are well off and ready to sail far away will have a Dinghe Pearl on board for emergencies. Dinghe Pearl is said to be rare on the market and will be taken by various fleets as soon as it comes out. Yang Zhao told Guo Fumin Qiang about the situation of the magic weapon and Dinghe Pearl and asked her to make a decision. Guo Fumin Qiang, if you can, we want both the magic weapon and the Dinghe Pearl, and the money is easy to negotiate. Besides, it is worth it to increase safety even a little bit. Yang Zhao, I will try my best to help you search for these two things. Yang Zhao put down his mobile phone and began to solve the problem of the heart protection magical instrument first. Although there are few such magic instruments on the market, she will definitely find a weapon refiner to take this order if she offers a large reward. Just like the pills that increase her power now. As for the Dinghe Pearl, she can go to a larger merchant to inquire. If there is no such merchant, she can also go through the same channel as the magic instrument, that is, a large reward. If this approach is still blocked, then she can only go out to sea to find the old shark named Kin and ask him if he has such a gem. Chapter 180, Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce. At night, it snowed heavily in Lijiang again. The dense snowflakes pressed down all over the place. Overnight, the snow outside had piled up to knee-high. In the morning, the snow stopped a little, and many snow collectors appeared on the streets of Lijiang. They were in groups of 3 or 2, holding magic tools, and shouting on the streets, asking the residents of the residential area to shovel the snow from their homes outside, and they would melt the snow into water with magic tools and discharge it into the underground sewer. Yang Zhao handed today's small bean people to her 3 servants, and gave each of them a cold allowance of 1 or 2 silver coins. To be honest, she didn't know what these small bean people were doing busily going back and forth on the street every day, but they always had something to do. Then Yang Zhao came to the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce, which was as famous as Xinglao. It was jointly established by big merchants from many places. If Xinglao was a local household in Lijiang, then the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce was a dragon from outside. Many merchants have united to gain a place in the business circle of Lijiang. Compared with Xinglao, the Bizhao United Chamber of Commerce has a larger floor area, and the door is more than 3 meters high. The goods inside are more comprehensive, with both high-end and low-end goods. As soon as she arrived at the door, the shop assistant enthusiastically invited her in and asked her what she needed. I want to buy a Dinghe Pearl and a heart-protecting magical instrument. When the young man heard her request, he smiled and asked her to sit in the corner. Although the heart-protecting magical instrument is not ready-made, it is also simple. You can put a list here, and there will be a weapon refiner to take the order and help you refine it. It's just that the Dinghe Pearl is a little difficult, so you have to let me inquire about it. Yang Zhao thought for a while, then let's place the order for refining the magic instrument first. At this moment, the smile on the young man's face became more enthusiastic. Now that this order is signed, the commission will naturally be his. Don't worry, our Chamber of Commerce has a cooperation with King Xiaofang, the third-ranked magic weapon shop in Lijiang. The orders from us are definitely expedited. The young man took the paper and pen swiftly and wrote while asking Yang Zhao for his requirements. The magic weapon is to open the meridians and awaken the spirit of a 70-year-old man, so it must be gentle, and this magic weapon must be able to be used in inert spiritual energy. The young man wrote down all her requirements on the paper, gave it to Yang Zhao for review, and sent it out. Sir, please wait a moment and King Xiaofang will reply to you. I will invite a worshipper to ask him if he knows about the Dinghe Pearl. The young man served tea to Yang Zhao and went upstairs to find a worshipper. The worshipper was a middle-aged man in his 30s, with a short beard that was neatly groomed by him, and he was wearing a rich and luxurious suit. He was led over by the young man and sat down on a chair. My last name is Zhang. Are you interested in Dinghe Pearl? Yang Zhao nodded. Yes, I want to buy one recently. I wonder if your Chamber of Commerce has any in stock. Zhang Ganfeng shook his head regretfully. As you know, Dinghe Pearl is basically bought as soon as it comes ashore. Our Chamber of Commerce doesn't have any in stock. If you have time, you can wait. We can help you find it at the seaside, but it's hard to say when. Yang Zhao felt that he had something else in mind. I'm waiting to use it urgently. Do you think there is any other way? Zhang Ganfeng suddenly asked something off topic. How old are you this year? What is your cultivation level? Are you studying in the prefectural school? Zhang Ganfeng, don't misunderstand, sir. I have a reason for asking this. There is an incident recently that may cause the Dinghe Pearl to appear. I want to ask if your age is right. Yang Zhao raised his eyebrows slightly, pondered for a while, and then said, 22 years old, foundation building stage. I'm not from this world. What do you want to ask about these things? Zhang Ganfeng nodded with satisfaction. Your age is quite suitable. Did you know that the prefectural school joint examination will be held in a few days? I heard about it. Is there any connection between this matter and the Dinghe Pearl? Yang Zhao actually didn't know about this, but she couldn't say it directly, otherwise she would appear to be ignorant and easily looked down upon. Zhang Ganfeng knocked on the table, and the waiter standing next to him turned and left. You also know that our Chamber of Commerce is jointly opened by several business houses. One of the business houses has made a list, saying that their prefectural school has specially prepared some money and treasures to recruit several young people in the foundation building period to temporarily join the prefectural school in order to get a good ranking in this joint examination. I remember that there is a Dinghe Pearl among them. This is a bit strange. Yang Zhao thought about it and realized that the prefectural school wanted to invite external aid. This is just like some schools using scholarships to recruit some good students to improve their first class enrollment rate. It stands to reason that this should be easy to recruit. Why is it my turn? Besides, doesn't the prefectural school not recruit people from other worlds? At this time, the young man also brought 2 trays of tea and snacks, and Zhang Ganfeng picked up the teapot and poured a cup for Yang Zhao. Guest, please don't underestimate yourself. Although there are many young talents like you, most of them study in prefectural schools in various places, and you can't find many outside. As for the rules of the prefectural school, Zhang Ganfeng poured himself a cup of tea and took a sip. They are just temporarily recruiting. After the joint exam, you will no longer be a student of the prefectural school. All prefectural schools in various places do this. No one will hold on to this point. It seems that there are people who take advantage of loopholes, no matter where they are. Even the state-run prefectural schools have to break the rules for grades. Yang Zhao thought about it and felt that this matter would help her more. At least she could get in touch with the prefectural school from another perspective. She had only collected small things invented by students in the prefectural school before. If I agree to join, can I get the Dinghe Baozu first? This depends on your ability. If you satisfy the teachers in the prefectural school, then this Dinghe Baozu can naturally be given to you first. On the contrary, if the teachers are not satisfied, they will not let her participate in the joint exam. Okay, when can I get in touch with the teacher of that prefectural school? Zhang Ganfeng took another sip of the tea in his cup and casually instructed the waiter standing next to him. Go and invite Bei Ganfeng from Yang Zhao Bailey Commercial Bank down. The waiter left the hall in a flash. Zhang Ganfeng pointed to 2 plates of snacks on the table and introduced them to Yang Zhao. Guests, let's have some tea first. Although the tea we use in our building is not good, it is also produced in Hanfeng. And this snack, we ordered it from Rujin building. It tastes sweet and not greasy. Do you want to try it and see if it suits your taste? Yang Zhao picked up a piece and sipped it with tea. After a while, he praised it. The snack and this tea are really unique when paired together. Next chapter, see you tomorrow at noon. I have something to do tomorrow and have to get up at 5 o'clock. Chapter 181, Spiritual Positive Pressure Value. People were coming and going in the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce. Bei Ganfeng from Yang Zhao Bailey Commercial Bank came quickly, but the news he brought was not very good. I'm sorry, sir. I just contacted Yang Zhao's Fuxu. They said that they recruited a student a few days ago, and that student also wanted this Dinghe Pearl. Yang Zhao was not too surprised about this matter. Dinghe Pearl was hard to find in the market, so it was natural that someone would like it. Is that student very good? Can I compete with him? Bei Ganfeng sat next to Zhang Ganfeng, feeling a little embarrassed by Yang Zhao's question. That person was originally a top figure in Yang Zhao Academy, but he couldn't win the championship in this competition, so he came to Yang Zhao Fuxu in anger. This means that Yang Zhao couldn't compete with that person, but it can also be seen that Yang Zhao Fuxu is indeed a little weaker than Yang Zhao Fuxu. What are the benefits of competing for the first place? Is it worth him abandoning his own prefectural school? Bei Ganfeng took the cup of tea handed over by Zhang Ganfeng. There are many benefits. The champion of each academy is both civil and military, and they are stronger than the cultivators of the entire academy. Such people will naturally get more attention in the competition. In fact, in addition to the Dinghe Pearl, Yang Zhao Prefecture Academy has many other treasures for you to choose from, and the others may not be much worse than the Dinghe Pearl. It seems that Bei Ganfeng still hasn't given up the idea of letting Yang Zhao join Yang Zhao Prefecture Academy. Do you have any other news about the Dinghe Pearl? Bei and Zhang Ganfeng looked at each other, and Zhang Ganfeng explained. You also know that this is winter. The violent sea in winter will be more violent. No fleet wants to pass through there. Naturally, there will be no production of Dinghe pearls during this period. Next year's summer is the peak production period of Dinghe pearls, but generally, they will be snapped up by those fleets before they can land. The implication of the words is that Yang Zhao wants to find a Dinghe pearl now, which is undoubtedly looking for a needle in a haystack. What do you mean? Zhang Ganfeng said with a smile. If you are really in a hurry, you can buy it from the other party at a high price. This is also a way. Even if Yang Zhao can't buy it, he can borrow it from the monk for a few days. I wonder how I can join Yang Zhao Academy. It's simple. The people from Yang Zhao Academy have come to Linjing these days. I will send them a message and they will come later. Bei Ganfeng took out an unfamiliar magic weapon and whispered a few words. At this time, a girl wearing a light yellow dress and double horns on her head walked in. The young man standing behind Yang Zhao and the others recognized her at a glance and stepped forward to greet her. Master Khan, why are you here in person? I came to discuss the details of the heart-protecting magic weapon. May I ask who placed the order in my King's House Square? Yang Zhao and the two priests stood up. Hello, Master Khan, I ordered the heart-protecting magic weapon. Hello. Master Khan nodded and greeted the two priests beside her. She turned around and asked the waiter beside her, can you help me find a quiet room so that I can discuss the details of the magic weapon with this guest? It seems that Master Khan has a straightforward temper. The waiter subconsciously looked at the two worshippers and then smiled and led Yang Zhao and Master Khan to an empty room. As soon as the two sat down, Master Khan asked directly, you require that the magic weapon can be used in inert spiritual energy. Can I ask what kind of inertness it is? Please wait a moment, I will organize the adjective. The other party did not force her. Yang Zhao thought carefully before speaking. The spiritual energy is like a dead sea without any waves. In daily life, you can never detect the existence of spiritual energy. Ordinary magic weapons are basically unusable. Under the conditions of that spiritual energy, mortals can't rely on themselves to awaken their spirits. Yes, Yang Zhao had guessed about this aspect a long time ago. Although she awakened her spirit on Earth, she was sure that the spiritual power storm was not stirred by her. She had learned that set of body movements to raise spirits for more than 10 years. If it was useful, she would have stirred up the spiritual energy and crushed herself to death. But no, she had been safe for more than 10 years. The spiritual energy could only have been stirred up by Master Gongsun. The reason why she was able to travel through time was that Master Gongsun realized that the incense in her Dao tablet was enough to protect her for a while. So when she performed the body movement to raise spirits, he also stirred up the spiritual energy. He made the dead spiritual energy come alive little by little, turning it into a huge wave that poured into the teleportation formation, and Yang Zhao was sent to this world of cultivation by the teleportation formation. Yang Zhao's raising of spirits was just a byproduct of Master Gongsun's stirring of spiritual energy, not worth mentioning. Master Khan tapped the table with his index finger thoughtfully, and answered after a long while. From what you said, this is not something that a magic weapon can do. And I have not experienced the situation you said. I don't know how to adjust the data of this magic weapon. After speaking, she looked up at Yang Zhao. Can you help me measure the positive pressure of the spiritual energy over there? Yes. Yang Zhao replied, but I don't have anything to measure the spiritual energy. I have. Master Khan took out a spinning top from his arms and handed it to Yang Zhao. Put it in the inert spiritual energy environment for a day and a night, and then bring it to King's House Square and give it to me. Then we can discuss the next step. Okay. Yang Zhao took the silver spinning top and left the house. The two of them signed the order for the magic weapon under the witness of Zhang Ganfeng. However, the amount of silver for the custom magic weapon has not been determined yet. It can only be determined after she has measured the spiritual energy value on the earth. At this time, Master Khan explained, the positive pressure of the spiritual energy affects the materials I use for the magic weapon, so there is no way. I will give you an estimate now. Yang Zhao didn't know much about this, but it sounded reasonable. And seeing that the two worshippers present all looked like they agreed, this statement should have been widely recognized here. She could only choose to write down all these things and tell Guo Fuminqiang when she returned. After all, professional things should be done by professionals. Yang Zhao didn't want to be an all-rounder. She just wanted to practice as quickly as possible and increase her cultivation strength. As for the positive pressure value of spiritual energy, it was not something she should worry about. She even imagined in her heart that maybe one day there would be a cultivation university in Shenzhou where students would be taught how to cultivate and how to learn the various arts of cultivation. And measuring the positive pressure value of spiritual energy would be as common as measuring the weather now. Maybe after the weather forecast, there would be a sentence about the positive pressure value of spiritual energy. Thinking of this, Yang Zhao's heart was actually a little excited. Maybe by that time, people would deliver food by flying in the sky instead of riding an electric bike. Chapter 182, Master Lin. After sending Master Khan away, Yang Zhao saw a young man in moon white clothes following behind Bei Ganfeng. The young man looked about 17 or 18 years old, with a face full of youthful spirit. When he looked at Yang Zhao, there was an undisguised arrogance in his eyes. Bei Ganfeng acted as a middleman to introduce each other. This is Mr. Lin from Yang Zhao Prefecture School. This is Yang Zhao. After the two sides greeted each other, Mr. Lin's tone was a little disdainful. I heard that brother Yang has never been to the prefecture school. You should be careful. Our Yang Zhao Academy has always been rigorous, and not everyone can come if they want to. This sentence made the atmosphere on the scene suddenly cold, and Bei Ganfeng's face was even stiff. It was also the first time that Yang Zhao met such a person who embarrassed others when they met for the first time. She did not say anything to retort, but just looked at Bei Ganfeng. If she retorted and scolded him, she would easily be retorted by the other party. After all, she did not have the status to suppress the boy, and the situation would be even more embarrassing in the end. Bei Ganfeng also understood the meaning of her eyes, and his face gradually became gloomy. Mr. Lin, this is the list that Yang Zhao Prefecture School has set up in my Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce. If you are not satisfied with the person we are looking for, you can directly ask your teacher to withdraw the list. There is no need to complain here. The Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce can stand in Lighting, so it is naturally not a person who can be bullied. Originally, the young man surnamed Lin was still looking up, but when he heard Bei Ganfeng speak, his attitude softened a bit. Mr. Bei Ganfeng, you are too serious. I don't mean that. I'm just afraid that some people think they are Yao Guangshu and are dreaming of being the leader, so I give them some good advice. Oh, it seems that Yao Guangshu is the academic bully who transferred from Yang Zhao Academy to Yang Zhao Academy. It seems that this Mr. Lin is very dissatisfied with Yao Guangshu. However, he did not dare to vent his anger on Yao Guangshu, but on Yang Zhao, and it seems that he does not want to vent it again. Mr. Lin, I don't have any desire for the top spot. If you are interested, you can fight for it yourself. Why come here and tell an outsider like me? Mr. Lin's face suddenly turned red, and he snorted coldly. I hope you can still talk like this when you go to my Yang Zhao Prefecture School. Yang Zhao laughed. My best quality is sincerity, and the thing I like to do most is to tell the truth. When I go to your Yang Zhao Prefecture School, I will naturally talk like this. The people around were amused by Yang Zhao. Mr. Lin glared at her fiercely. I just hope that your skills are half as good as your mouth. He turned around and said goodbye to Bei Ganfeng. Mr. Bei, since she is already here, I will take her back with me. Bei Ganfeng happily saw her off. After all, Brother Yang is someone I found by the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce. I hope Mr. Lin will take care of him. When they arrived at the door, Yang Zhao also said goodbye to Bei Ganfeng. He returned the greeting and said, then I wish you a successful start and immediate success. Young Master Lin looked grim, and he walked to the front with his sleeves rolled up. Let's go. To be honest, if it wasn't for the Dinghe Pearl, Yang Zhao would have left long ago and would never have wasted his breath here with him. Young Master Lin used the light body technique as soon as he got to the street. Although he didn't run to maintain his dignity, he walked very fast. He wanted to show off his power to Yang Zhao, but the power he gave was not enough, as if he was leaving a child to sulk. Yang Zhao raised his eyebrows, stretched out his hand, and called for a beast carriage parked on the side of the road to sit in. "Boss, follow the young man in the moon-white clothes in front." The boss of the car asked cheerfully, "Don't you need to invite that young man to get in the car?" "No, that young man wants to lose weight, so he wants to walk around on this street. Maybe the car owners are all gossipy." "Oh, customer, did you have a quarrel with that young master?" "No, we just met today. What's there to quarrel about?" "There's no quarrel." Yang Zhao replied and stopped talking. Mr. Lin was walking in front, but suddenly he turned back and found that Yang Zhao was gone. Yang Zhao saw him looking around, so he stuck his head out of the car and waved. "Mr. Lin, you can hurry up in front. I will never lose you behind." Mr. Lin stood there with a red face, not wanting to go or not, and finally glared at her fiercely, and also hailed a car and got in. "Boss, follow the car that the young master got in." "Okay, don't worry." The two animal carriages drove one after the other on the streets of Lianjing, going further and further away. The car in front turned left and right, taking Yang Zhao to another street. As soon as he entered this street, he could clearly see that there were more young people coming and going. There are not many shops on this street, most of them are restaurants, and the rest of the shops have some guild halls written on them, and young people come in and out from time to time. The two animal carts drove for a while, and stopped in front of the Yang Zhao Guild Hall. It seems that they have arrived. Yang Zhao got off the cart, and paid the bill with the cart owner. The cart owner patted the animal's buttocks and left. "Come with me." Master Lin walked straight into the Yang Zhao Guild Hall, and Yang Zhao followed slowly behind him to admire the decorations here. The decoration of this guild hall is not very luxurious, but there is an ancient charm everywhere. It seems that this guild hall has been around for many years, but the young people coming in and out brought a different kind of vitality to this guild hall. These young people should all know Master Lin, and they always say hello to him when they meet. Master Lin will also smile and return their greetings, and will not answer those who want to ask about Yang Zhao's background. It seems that he is not impolite, but he is polite according to the person. Yang Zhao did not say anything, just followed silently behind. After a while, Master Lin led her to a room and knocked on the door. "Sir, I have brought the person to you. Do you want to see him?" A deep male voice came from the room. "Come in. We are all here." Master Lin led Yang Zhao into the room and saw a large round table in the middle of the spacious room. Around the table, 8 or 9 people were writing and drawing with pens and paper. One of the thin middle-aged men put down his pens and paper and called Yang Zhao and the others over. He looked at Yang Zhao carefully. "Are you the 22-year-old foundation building stage?" Yang Zhao bowed and greeted. "Yes, your cultivation is genuine." The thin middle-aged man smiled at once. "What are you good at? Are you good at fighting?" It seems that Bei Gongsheng told the middle-aged man the news about Yang Zhao clearly. Generally, people like Yang Zhao who have not attended the prefectural school have limited channels to obtain knowledge of cultivation, and generally do not involve refining tools and alchemy. The most powerful strengths are bravery and fighting, and the ability to fight with others. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183, Public Enemy. Yang Zhao is just like those people who have never been to the prefectural school. She is only concerned with improving her cultivation strength and has not touched upon the 100 arts of cultivation. When encountering difficulties in this regard, she usually uses silver to solve them. For example, the pills she takes every day to improve her cultivation, and the heart-protecting magic weapon that has not yet been opened. Facts have proved that silver is still quite useful. You have a keen eye, but I'm dull and have no talent for formations and alchemy. I can only punch and kick a few times and cast a few small spells. The thin middle-aged man looked as if it was just as expected. Okay, how about this? There is a small martial arts arena outside. How about you go there and show us? Yang Zhao had no objection. Everything is up to you, sir, but I can't show my level by myself. The middle-aged man suddenly became interested. Oh, does that mean you want to find someone to fight with you? As soon as the thin middle-aged man finished speaking, the people in the middle room all turned their eyes to Yang Zhao. Why do you want to compete for the first place? Sir, I know myself well. I can't compete for the first place. I admire Mr. Lin's cultivation very much. I want him to teach me a few things so that I can also broaden my horizons. Although Yang Zhao's words sound nice, no one present is a fool. As soon as they heard what he said, they knew that there was definitely a conflict between the two. However, Mr. Lin was originally a student of Yang Zhao Academy, so the gentleman present naturally sided with him. However, Yang Zhao did not say anything bad about Mr. Lin. His tone was humble and polite. These gentlemen could not blame Yang Zhao for provoking him. Come on, a person who has never been to the prefecture school thinks that he is a few years older than me and has a higher cultivation than me. Do you really think that everyone is Yao Guangshu? As he said this, Mr. Lin bowed deeply to the circle of gentlemen. Gentlemen, I would like to compete with her and boost the morale of our Yang Zhao students. It seems that Yao Guangshu offended more than one person in Yang Zhao Academy in order to compete for the top spot in Yang Zhao Academy. Judging from what Master Lin said, Yao Guangshu really won the top spot. Otherwise, Master Lin would not be so resentful, and now he has obviously hurt others by mistake. Well, you are worthy of being a student of Yang Zhao Academy. You have ambition. The thin middle-aged man clapped his hands and praised, not giving Yang Zhao a chance to interrupt. Come on, I will take you to the martial arts arena. He took the lead, and Yang Zhao could only swallow the words that came to his mouth, and followed Master Lin to walk behind the middle-aged man. The gentlemen who were writing and drawing in the room looked at each other, quickly packed up their papers and pens, and followed them out to watch the fun. It seems that, as long as they are intelligent creatures, they will have the instinct to join in the fun. As a result, Yang Zhao's group of people numbered nearly 10. Walking in the Yang Zhao Guild Hall, they attracted the attention of many students in the hall. They followed curiously, not daring to ask the teachers, but asking for details from Mr. Lin, whom they knew in the crowd. Mr. Lin's words were naturally in his favor, and Yang Zhao couldn't interrupt. After hearing the news that he was going to compete with someone who had never been to the academy, the group of young people also gathered happily. They cheered Mr. Lin with great enthusiasm, and when they arrived at the Lion Wu arena, Mr. Lin was praised by his classmates so much that he couldn't tell east from west. Don't worry, I will definitely fight for our Yang Zhao Academy. Within a few minutes of walking along the way, Yang Zhao was actually portrayed as a collective villain by them, and she had the illusion that she was going to be beaten by everyone. She couldn't help but regret that she was a little impulsive just now, and she should have been more patient. What if she really caused public outrage, and these teachers decided not to want her? Where would she go to find the news of Ding Heibao's who? Thinking slowly in her heart, she followed a group of people to the martial arts arena. Yang Zhao and Master Lin stood in the open space, waiting for the next order from the teachers. Although it was called a martial arts arena, there were actually no weapon racks or stone locks next to it. It was just a small empty space with no plants or anything else. A teacher took out a small metal stick from his arms and gave it to the student, who was watching the excitement. You should insert these sticks according to the protective formation. If you don't do it well, you will learn the formation in vain. Sir, please watch me. I will definitely arrange it properly for you. If there is any omission, you can punish me. The student took the stick and called 3 other students to help. They worked together to arrange the sticks around Yang Zhao and the other 2. It took less than 5 or 6 minutes. There were a total of 16 sticks. The teacher who took out the sticks followed the student and carefully checked it, nodding with satisfaction. Not bad. The layout is quite neat, and we didn't let outsiders laugh at us on the first day. When the students heard the teacher praising them, their smiles suddenly became sweet. Thank you for the compliment, sir. We will study hard in the future. Then the gentleman stepped back a few steps and came to the edge of the martial arts arena. He tapped the black metal chain on his left wrist with 2 fingers of his right hand. The 16 baguettes stuck in the ground suddenly sent out a current, which went against the trend and grew toward the sky. At a height of 5 or 6 meters, the 16 currents connected together to form a dome, which then flashed a few times and disappeared. The gentleman who took out the baguettes began to instruct Yang Zhao and the others. This formation is set up to protect the students outside, but it cannot guarantee the safety of you two. Be careful when you two fight. Now there is a circle of people outside the martial arts arena, at least dozens of students, and more friends are calling for help. The thin middle-aged man also said, "You are just competing, so stop when you are done, and show some mercy. We have so many eyes watching us. If you step out of line, I will take action." Although it sounded like these words were spoken to both Yang Zhao and the others, and they were fair and just, his eyes were fixed on Yang Zhao, and it was clear who he wanted to warn. Yang Zhao couldn't help but smile bitterly in her heart. Now even in the hearts of these teachers, she was the public enemy of the entire Yang Zhao Academy. However, this also indirectly shows that Yao Guangshu's behavior of competing for the championship not only hit the confidence of these Yang Zhao students, but also slapped the faces of these teachers. The middle-aged man looked at the magic circle on the ground and nodded with satisfaction. "Then you can start now." Yang Zhao shook her hand, and a dragon spear appeared in her hand. That Master Lin also took out a sword from his purse to protect himself. P.O. Please P.O. Chapter 184, Fighting. Snowflakes were falling and covering the capital. However, the martial arts arena of Yang Zhao Guild Hall was very lively. The young monks surrounded Yang Zhao and the other two in the center, pointing and laughing, and it seemed that they did not take Yang Zhao seriously. Yang Zhao held his spear and clasped his fists. "Yang Zhao, I'm sorry." Master Lin snorted coldly and pointed the tip of his sword to the ground. Lin Sheng of Yang Zhao Prefecture School. There was nothing to say after both sides reported their names. They shook their spiritual power and fought in one place. The spear was long and the sword was short. Lin Sheng did not move forward, but held the magic sword in his left hand and held it in front of him. With his right hand, he made a seal, and a water dragon gathered from the tip of the sword and rushed towards Yang Zhao with fangs and claws. Before Yang Zhao ran 2 steps, the water dragon came roaring and rushed towards her head. She raised the dragon spear, then swung it down, and a great force smashed the attacking water dragon, and then she rushed to Lin Sheng again. Unexpectedly, the water dragon did not break apart, and in the blink of an eye, it came together and hit her from behind. Yang Zhao felt a chill on her back. The tip of the spear moved back, the spear shaft behind her grew longer, and she shattered the water dragon with a powerful sweep. Although she felt that the water dragon was not dangerous, it was no harm to smash it several times, and it gathered together again in a blink of an eye. Lin Sheng looked at Yang Zhao with contempt and changed the magic formula in his hand. The magic sword he held in front of him gathered another water dragon and the previous water dragon to attack from the front and back and rushed towards the opponent. It seemed that he couldn't force it, so Yang Zhao activated his spiritual power, pinched the formula with one hand to summon a big fireball and casually slapped it on the dragon spear. The flames spread with the sound of the gun until they completely wrapped up the dragon spear. When the dragon spear collided with the water dragon again, it made a hissing sound, and a large amount of water vapor rose up, like a steamer opened in a bun shop in winter, and then turned into broken ice chips in a moment, when it was cold, and scattered. Yang Zhao turned the dragon spear, and the 2 water dragons were half gone in an instant. HMPH, you have some skills. Lin Sheng took 2 steps back, holding the sword in his left hand and pointing at Yang Zhao, while his right hand kept making hand gestures and whispering to himself. The flying snowflakes on the martial arts field changed their tracks and gathered towards his magic sword. In less than a moment, the snowflakes melted into water dragons and rushed out to join the battle group besieging Yang Zhao. Yang Zhao shook the giant long spear, and the flames on the spear rose half a foot high, like a fire dragon, raising its head and roaring. Hiss, hiss, hiss. In an instant, the flourishing mist covered Yang Zhao's figure, and only the water dragon could be seen wandering around in the mist, and the fire on the Gianna long spear dyed the mist orange-red. The two sides fought fiercely, and the young people around them also chatted enthusiastically. This guy named Yang Zhao actually uses the fireball technique. He thinks he can fight against senior brother Lin with this technique. He is really overestimating himself. What else can he do? He has never been to the prefectural school and has few advanced spells. Naturally, he can only use simple ones. Ever since Yao Guangshu came, everyone wants to show off in front of our Yang Zhao prefectural school. Be careful with your words. Senior brother Yao is already the leader of our Yang Zhao prefectural school. That's right. Humph. It's a great way to make use of local materials. A few days ago, senior brother Lin could only summon 8 water dragons, but now he can summon 12. Senior brother Lin has a great talent for cultivation. He has made such progress in just a few days. You can tell at a glance that the woman's spells are inferior and her weapons are not that good. Except for appearing to be a little stronger, how can she compare to senior brother Lin? How can people like them who can't even go to the prefectural school have the money to buy good magic weapons? Makes sense. Ahem. The teachers were happy to listen to the students' discussion, but when they heard that they were not optimistic about Yang Zhao's magic weapon, they frowned. One of the teachers coughed loudly to suppress the discussion. Seeing that the young people's eyes were all gathered, the teacher introduced loudly. Don't underestimate the spear. Although it looks simple, it is faintly filled with blood. You can tell at a glance that it is made of the bones of a fierce beast. Although Yang Zhao doesn't see any magical power when using it, you should not underestimate the enemy. Not only did the students in the circle of Yang Zhao hear this, but even Yang Zhao and Lin Sheng on the field heard it clearly. Sure enough, Lin Sheng's eyes became solemn and cautious when he saw the fog in the field. At this time, the fog around Yang Zhao had surrounded more than 10 meters, and there was a tendency to spread. Lin Sheng found a direction and retreated a little distance. The magic formula of his right hand changed, and the snowflakes that had been gathering continuously stopped. Then the mist surrounding Yang Zhao was sucked away by his magic sword and turned into water dragons. In an instant, Yang Zhao's figure appeared. At this time, she had walked forward nearly 10 meters, and the dragon spear in her hand had grown from the original 2 meters and 4 to 3 meters. With a wave of the spear, those water dragons could not get close to her at all. Outside the martial arts arena, the discussion of those young people gradually subsided. This Yang Zhao doesn't look amazing, but senior brother Lin doesn't seem to be able to do anything to her. What? Didn't you see senior brother Lin's water dragons surrounding her and attacking her? She couldn't get close to senior brother Lin at all. But I saw that she looked quite calm and composed. Those water dragons looked fancy, but they didn't cause any damage to her. Just seeing senior brother Lin attacking and Yang Zhao defending, I know that senior brother Lin has the upper hand. The reason why Yang Zhao over there kept entangled with the water dragons was because she didn't understand these water dragons, didn't know if there were any mysteries hidden in them, and didn't want these water dragons to get close to her. Besides, it was winter, and if the water dragon pounced on her, her clothes would be frozen into ice. Although she was not afraid of the cold, she didn't want to suffer this. But Lin Sheng had enough mana, and the snowflakes dancing around were all water sources, so it was difficult for her to kill all the water dragons at once. Since she couldn't kill them in a short time, she had to think of another way. Yang Zhao stared at Lin Sheng with her eyes, rubbed her hands together, and the flame on the Gianna long spear went out. Then she pinched an ice condensing formula with one hand and slapped it on the Gianna long spear. Then, the Gianna long spear danced, and all the water dragons that collided with the spear body turned into ice cubes in an instant, and fell to the ground. The mist that the magic sword had absorbed to gather the water dragons suddenly disappeared. Lin Sheng was stunned, and then changed the magic formula to gather the snowflakes around. But Yang Zhao's reaction was one step faster than his. She kicked with one leg and rushed forward, and the distance between the two was instantly cleared. She pointed the tip of her spear directly at Lin Sheng's chest. Lin Sheng subconsciously blocked it with the magic sword in his hand, but Yang Zhao used the Gianna long spear to tamper with it, and the magic sword in his hand was unstable, and fell to the ground. Lin Sheng did not bother with the magic sword on the ground. He used the kicking body skill to fly backwards, and with both hands, a water dragon flew straight to Yang Zhao's face. Yang Zhao dodged, and the spiritual power surged to his feet, and chased after him. He pushed the tip of the spear forward, and stopped at his throat. Chapter 185, Victory. I'm sorry. Before Yang Zhao could finish her words, she felt a strong wind coming from behind. She dodged to the side, and her spear swung back, hitting the magic sword that was attacking from behind. With a clang, the magic sword was smashed out by her, and it hit the protective electric net set up by the teachers of Yang Zhao Academy. It made a sizzling sound, and fell to the ground again. While Yang Zhao was dodging the magic sword, Lin Sheng took out a fan from his sleeve, spread the fan, and waved it hard. 4 or 5 light chains flew out from the fan, attacking Yang Zhao with a whistling sound of wind. Yang Zhao knocked the light chains with his spear, and the light chains were broken up, and turned into dots of light and disappeared. The light chains could not restrain Yang Zhao's speed at all. She did not stop, and chased Lin Sheng fiercely. Lin Sheng dodged left and right, and changed several steps, but could not escape the range of Yang Zhao's spear. The martial arts arena was not big, and the two of them were moving very fast. In a few seconds, he was forced to the edge of the martial arts arena by Yang Zhao. Suddenly, Lin Sheng felt a numbness on his back, and he was stunned. Yang Zhao took the opportunity again, and put the tip of his gun against his throat. It turned out that he had nowhere to retreat, and hit the protective electric net. The whole fight took less than a cup of tea. For a moment, the whole audience was silent. I'm really sorry this time. Yang Zhao stepped back, and took away his gun, standing the long gun beside him. Lin Sheng's eyes were wide open, and he was panting heavily. He didn't know whether he was tired or angry. I'm not as skilled as others, and I don't deserve to lose. He glared at Yang Zhao fiercely, picked up the magic sword on the ground without saying anything, and ran out of the martial arts arena. Then a few young people followed him. After those people walked away, the young students around the martial arts arena started to talk again. Young people all admire the strong, and their attitudes towards winning and losing are also very different. Senior brother Lin is so unlucky. He lost to Yao Guangshu last time, and this time he lost to this unknown person. What do you know? People like them who have never been to the prefectural school love to fight bravely. If you let her compete with senior brother Lin in magic alone, she will definitely not be able to beat senior brother Lin. Look at what you said. Losing is losing. There is no need to have so many excuses. Aren't you from Yang Zhao Academy? Why are you talking so cynically? I'm from Yang Zhao Academy, so what? Don't you have the grace to admit victory or loss? I don't know what's going on with our Yang Zhao Academy this year. We have been provoked by these cats and dogs. Yang Zhao glanced at everyone with a cold face, and said in a loud voice, I came to Yang Zhao Guild Hall today, not to make trouble, but I received a recruitment order from Yang Zhao Prefectural School at the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce. The competition just now was also a test given to me by the teacher of Yang Zhao Academy. I came here normally and competed normally. Why did you belittle me? This remark made many people present choke, and they could not say anything to belittle Yang Zhao. Besides, he had a problem with his character. Then some young people changed the subject and cleared Yao Guangshu's name. Brother Yao is already the champion of our Yang Zhao Academy. You should be more careful when you speak. You really want to be someone's lackey after only knowing each other for a few days. As a student of Yang Zhao Academy, do you have the face to insult the champion? Seeing these young students quarreling among themselves, the teachers around them looked helpless. The reason why Yao Guangshu attracted hatred was because he failed to win the championship in Yang Zhao Academy, but won the championship easily in Yang Zhao Academy. This was a disguised slap in the face of the entire Yang Zhao Academy, telling everyone clearly that Yang Zhao Academy was not as good as Yang Zhao Academy. Otherwise, the teachers of Yang Zhao Academy would not have placed an order to recruit people in the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce. After arriving in Lijiang with only a few days left, they really didn't have confidence in this competition and wanted to find some more helpers for these students. Yang Zhao put away the Jiana long spear and wrapped it around her wrist and walked in front of the teachers. Sir, what do you think? Very good. She is indeed a young talent. A teacher came over and praised her with a smile. Follow me. He led Yang Zhao out of the crowd and walked back. The other teachers took out their baguettes and put them away, and the rest were there shouting at the students. Okay, we're finished watching. Why are you still gathering here? Disperse. Forget it, disperse. These young monks slowly dispersed, and the news that Lin Cheng lost again spread. Here, Yang Zhao followed the teacher of the academy into the room where they worked together at the beginning. The gentleman handed Yang Zhao a cup of tea, and then took out a piece of paper from a book on the round table, and handed it to Yang Zhao. Here is a recruitment list. You can choose any one of them as the reward for this competition. Of course, you can also convert it into silver. Yang Zhao unfolded the paper, and saw that there were more than a dozen things written on it. Some were magic tools, and the other were elixirs. The value of these things was about the same. The Zhenhe pearl was placed on top as a magic tool. I wonder if this Zhenhe pearl can be given to me. The gentleman also poured himself a cup of tea, and drank it slowly. You should know that this Zhenhe pearl has been given to Yao Guangshu. You can choose another thing. Yang Zhao put down his burden. Sir, can you introduce Yao Guangshu to me? Why, do you want to buy the Dinghe pearl from him? Yang Zhao nodded. I can pay more silver, and even give him the reward that your school gave me. The gentleman smiled, and put down the teacup. Your offer is not low, but it's a pity that Yao Guangshu is not in the club now. He has his own property in Linjing. Yang Zhao suddenly realized that Yao Guangshu probably felt uncomfortable living here and left. After all, a large number of students in the guild hall had negative emotions towards him, and he had no feelings for Yang Zhao Prefecture Academy, and he didn't have many friends here. He simply moved out of the way. Sir, do you know his address? I can go visit him. Sir, that's not necessary. He will come over tomorrow to work with you. You can discuss it with him tomorrow. Yang Zhao could only nod in agreement. It seemed that this gentleman respected other people's privacy. At least he respected Yao Guangshu's privacy. Then the two of them signed the book contract for the entrance examination together, which clearly stated that she would only be a student of Yang Zhao Academy during the competition, and she would automatically withdraw from Yang Zhao Academy after the competition. After signing the book contract, the gentleman who fell behind also filed into the house. Then, they surrounded Yang Zhao and asked about her general cultivation information. Chapter 186, Competition Location. It was getting dark, and the snow outside had stopped. Yang Zhao went to the food store to have a big meal. After leaving the Yang Zhao Guild Hall, she had already digested the meal she had eaten in the morning. To be honest, there were a lot of things to do today, but she still had some things to do. Back at the rented courtyard, Zhang He was shivering and squatting at the door to avoid the wind, with a bunch of little bean dolls stuffed full of satchels beside him. When he saw Yang Zhao coming back, Zhang He's eyes lit up, and he stood up and greeted him with the little bean dolls. Thank you for your hard work, boss. Yang Zhao counted the little bean dolls with a pleasing look. You've worked hard too. You're the only one here. Have you eaten? Zhang He rubbed his hands because of the cold. No, we'll go back to eat later. The other two are girls. It's not good to go home too late, so I'll let them go first. Yang Zhao took out a handful of copper coins from his purse and stuffed them in. I'll add another dish for you tonight. Zhang He put his hands away a little embarrassedly. This is not appropriate. Take it. What's inappropriate? It's late. Go back quickly. Yang Zhao sent the happy Zhang He away and led the little beam people into the yard. After these little beam people entered the house, they turned back into beams one by one and were collected by her. At the same time, she collected the things in their backpacks and put them in the Kyankan bag. She took out her mobile phone and contacted Guo Fumin Qiang first. Yang Zhao, I have a magic tool for measuring the positive pressure of spiritual energy. I will return it later. Remember to put it in a safe place for a day and a night. Guo Fumin Qiang. Okay, I will absolutely guarantee the safety of this thing. Did you buy it? Yang Zhao. No, the refiner lent it to me to measure the spiritual energy value. I will ask her where I can buy it next time I return it. Guo Fumin Qiang. Okay, we want to increase the number of people in the Bean Man experiment this time. Do you think it is convenient for you? Yang Zhao. As long as you pay the silver, it is quite convenient for me. A single bean costs 1 or 2 silver taels. but the price drops as the number increases. If you buy 1,000 beans, on average, each bean costs about 2 cents of silver. Yang Zhao, but I don't have that many people to entertain you now. She only has 3 assistants. If there is no one to lead the bean man, their safety performance will be reduced by more than half. At that time, the loss rate of the beans will increase by a level. Besides, if there are too many beans, communication will also be a big problem. Guo Fumin Qiang, don't worry, we have enough research funds to withstand the current consumption, but it's better for you to recruit more talents. Yang Zhao, okay, I'll arrange it. How many beans do you want? Guo Fumin Qiang, 2,000 first. 2,000? Yang Zhao made a decision in her mind. She wanted to recruit some people who had opened meridians and awakened spirits, otherwise it would take too much time to just spread beans every day. She put the things that Xiaodaran bought today, along with the magic tool for measuring the positive pressure of spiritual energy, into the Qiankan bag, and then put the Qiankan bag under his Dao card. The sky and the earth are boundless, and the Qiankan bag is changing. After a moment, the Qiankan bag disappeared. The way they trade now is also very different from before. Guo Fumin Qiang sent the silver that Xiaodaran had to spend that day together with Yang Zhao's commission. For example, if Xiaodaran spent 1,000 taels of silver, they would send 1,100 taels of silver. Yang Zhao took 100 taels of silver and gave the remaining 1,000 taels to Xiaodaran. She didn't have much expenses these days, and she saved nearly 20,000 taels of silver. Although she didn't wear any good clothes and looked inconspicuous, she was really rich now. She didn't have to find a source of goods or promote them. She only collected tolls. Yang Zhao counted her silver while thinking about how to spend it. Money makes the world go round. Maybe she could look for the black market in this world. There are probably many things that interest her there. After spending the happy time counting silver, it was time for her to take the pills. These days, she has been trying to practice the 3 pure ones in the right yang meridian while taking the pills. It's just that the process is not ideal. In the middle and later stages of the pain of the pills, she is often distracted by the burning pain in the meridians and forgets to practice. But the gains are not small. She can clearly feel that her ability to absorb spiritual energy has changed with each passing day. Although the process is not very humane, the progress of practice is absolutely second to none. On the next morning, Yang Zhao first entrusted the little bean man to 3 assistants, and then went to the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce to buy more than 2,500 traction beans. It is said that these traction beans account for 4/5 of the inventory in their store, and the remaining ones will not be sold at all, and they want to keep them to maintain business. Because there are relatively few people who buy this thing in Lijiang, they will not stockpile too much here. This thing is most commonly used in various ruins and battlefields, and it is more useful to use it to spy on intelligence. After stuffing a bag of beans, Yang Zhao bought some food on the way and ate it in the beast cart, and then rushed to the Yang Zhao Guild Hall. The students in the Yang Zhao Guild Hall have gathered in the martial arts field. Those students stood together in groups of 3 or 2, and she also saw Lin Sheng surrounded by a group of people in the middle, and he was vaguely regarded as a leader. Another more conspicuous one was a young monk in aqua blue clothes. He was not tall, but he had a calm temperament and decent features. The key is that there was no one around him within 2 or 3 meters. Others looked at him evasively. People couldn't help but guess that he was the famous Yao Guangshu. Because of the delay in buying the beans, Yang Zhao arrived a little late. As soon as she approached the martial arts arena, she was stared at by many people. Some of these eyes were arrogant, some were contemptuous, some were curious, and some were indifferent. She ignored these eyes and found a corner to wait for the teachers from Yang Zhao Prefecture School. After a while, the teachers filed into the martial arts arena, and the students in the martial arts arena became quiet. An old man who Yang Zhao hadn't seen yesterday stood 2 meters low, coughed, and began to speak. Let's not waste any more time. The location of the competition yesterday has been announced. It's in Luoyang. The expressions of the students below suddenly became nervous, and the voices of discussion could not be suppressed. Luoyang, isn't that a battlefield? Why is it Luoyang? Are we going to fight this time? The border of Luoyang has been very peaceful in recent years. There have been basically no major battles, only small frictions. Small frictions can also cost lives. The old man coughed again and found that the students didn't hear it at all. He didn't get angry, but took out a small bell from his arms and shook it gently. Yang Zhao only felt a sharp roar entering her ears, piercing her eardrums. In fact, not only she was in pain, but the ears of the students in the entire martial arts field were also in pain. The pain made these people seem to be pressed on the still button and shut their mouths. Chapter 187. Details of the competition. The old man played with the bell in his hand with a smile. No teachers from any academy are allowed to participate in the tutoring for this competition. You can only rely on yourselves. All of a sudden, the students who had just calmed down became restless again. The teachers won't participate? Then are we noobs going to die? There needs to be a general to command the battlefield. Even if there is no general, we can have a military advisor. It seems that we can only choose a leader from among us. Who to choose? Who can convince the crowd? Yao Guangshu. Pa, I know nothing about him, and he actually wants me to hand my life over to him? Wishful thinking. The old man smiled and shook the bell again. Everyone shuddered physically, rubbed their ears again, and shut up. The will of the court cannot be changed, so this time the court has prepared a lot of detailed information about Luiyuan for you, and each prefectural school team will have a young general to provide you with assistance. But you must remember that the young general is there to score you, and he will not directly participate in the battle. You can ask him if you don't understand something, but you can't let him do it himself, understand? This time the leader will be temporarily replaced by the leader of each prefectural school. Of course, with the consent of most people, a new leader can also be elected. In short, be careful and cautious during Luiyuan. For the sake of your life, don't fight alone. Mr. Lee, please distribute all the information about Luiyuan. A gentleman in khaki clothes below took out a big bag from his sleeve. He patted his pocket lightly, and a large cluster of metal lumps flew out of his pocket. Those things were like a small dark cloud, circling above his head first, and then dispersed, and flew into the hands of every young student. Yang Zhao also received one. Is this thing a USB flash drive? How can I use it, if it is so strange? This iron lump was in the shape of a triangular cone, and was only 1 centimeter high. Although it was small in size, it was very heavy. She looked up and down at the iron lump, trying to see how to use it, and whether there were any buttons. The detailed information about Luiyuan is in this low-level copper slip. You should read the information carefully. Yang Zhao looked at the metal lump in his hand. It turned out that this thing was called a copper slip, but how to use it? The old man in the air became more and more serious. But what I want to tell you is that Luiyuan is a battlefield. The rivers there change their course at any time, and the mountains and rivers there collapse every day. So most of the information in this copper slip must be wrong. If you don't use your brains and don't conduct field investigations, you will easily die there. Finally, I hope that you can put your own lives first in this competition, and you can all come back with your lives saved. Finally, the old man came down from the air and walked out of the martial arts field without stopping. As soon as he left, the long line of young monks became lively. We are really going to Luiyuan. Why do we have to face this kind of thing? It's okay to go to Luiyuan, but how can we let Yao Guangshu lead? Senior brother Yao is the leader of our Yang Zhao Academy. The court asked the leader to be the leader. What can you do? How much of the information in this bronze slip is useful? Even if it is useless, we must familiarize ourselves with it, so as not to be dumbfounded when we encounter it. Going to a place like Luiyuan too often will definitely shorten your life. Why think so much? It's important to save your own life first. The bronze slips in the hands of those people glowed slightly, projecting texts in the air. Yang Zhao imitated them and slowly transferred spiritual power into the bronze slips. Sure enough, the bronze slips in her hand also began to project texts. At this time, Mr. Lee also flew into the air. Everyone be quiet, I will explain the detailed rules of this competition. This time the students were very obedient and quiet. This competition will start in 10 days, which means you still have 10 days to prepare. This time, the 57 prefecture schools are divided into 3 parts, and they will be deployed in the upper, middle and lower abysses of Luiyuan. Each section will have students from 19 schools, and our Yang Zhao school is in the upper abyss. Each school has its own area to guard, and you decide how to guard it. This time, you must formulate all your marching routes, build all your resting places, and solve your own weapons, food, water, etc. Whether to unite or separate with the other 18 schools is up to you. And the scoring criteria are right next to you. On the young general in the army, you can ask him for the specific details. For this competition, the court has given you a lot of freedom, but how to use this freedom is your test. In a word, come back alive. After saying that, Mr. Lee also went down, and the other gentlemen followed him, and left the martial arts arena together. As these gentlemen left, the students in the martial arts arena also scattered. Yang Zhao pushed through the crowd, and walked to the man who looked like Yao Guangshu, and bowed. I wonder if you are the leader of Yang Zhao Academy, Yao Guangshu. The man looked at her unkindly, probably thinking that she was looking for trouble. I'm Yao Guangshu, why are you looking for me? It seems that she has really found the right person, and Yang Zhao can't help but feel happy. My name is Yang Zhao, and I just joined Yang Zhao Academy yesterday. This sentence made Yao Guang's face ease. May I ask what you want to do with me? Yang Zhao smiled a little embarrassedly and said, I really have an unreasonable request. Can you give up the Dinghe Pearl? No. Yao Guangshu answered neatly and decisively. Yao, leader, if you are willing to give up the Dinghe Pearl, I can buy it at 3 times the market price. But Yang Zhao didn't want to give up, and wanted to win through money offensive. Who knew that Yao Guangshu's answer this time was always straightforward? No, I'm not short of money. Yang Zhao added, I came to Yang Zhao Academy, and I haven't chosen the compensation from Yang Zhao Academy yet. If you want to give it up, how about 3 times the market value of the Dinghe Pearl plus the compensation from Yang Zhao Academy? Not very good, let me tell you, I have a fleet at home. Yao Guangshu's face was a little impatient, and he walked out. How about I rent it? Just rent it to me for 2 days, you pay the price, and we can write a written contract. Yang Zhao followed him, and relaxed the conditions again. You only need to rent it to me for 1 or 2 days, and I will return it to you on time. Yao Guangshu frowned unhappily. Do you have to borrow the Dinghe Pearl from me? I know the whereabouts of this Dinghe Pearl in Linjing, and I have no choice but to trouble Yao Keshao. Yang Zhao looked at him sincerely. The rent is based on your wishes, okay? Knocking on the bowl to ask for votes. Chapter 188, Feng Ling's Hu. The students from Yang Zhao who were about to disperse could not help but slow down their pace. Various eyes looked over, either implicitly or directly. Yang Zhao and Yao Guangshu were both popular figures in the past 2 days. When they got together, they naturally attracted everyone's attention. No, I don't need the money. Yao Guangshu replied indifferently and walked away. Yang Zhao might never learn this attitude of not caring about money in his life. Yao, I sincerely want to borrow it for a day or 2. Since you don't value the money, what do you value? Yao Guangshu said without turning his head. I value strength and the benefits to my path. Oh, she couldn't say such a childish thing when she was in the 3rd year of high school. Maybe it was childish for her, but for Yao Guangshu, it was a portrayal of his life. Yang Zhao gritted his teeth, just afraid that this person who has everything needs nothing. This is another kind of strength without desire. It seems that the way out is still in this big competition, and the other party must see the value. Seeing his attitude, Yang Zhao could only make more preparations. The students around saw that Yao Guangshu had left and could not watch the excitement anymore, so they naturally dispersed. She found the teachers of Yang Zhao Prefecture School and received her remuneration for joining Yang Zhao Academy to participate in the competition. Mr. Lee took out the list from yesterday for her. Mr. Lee, I want the magic weapon with the highest defense here. Can you recommend one to me? That's easy. Mr. Lee did not hesitate at all and pointed to a name on the list, Feng Ling's Hu. This name really doesn't sound like a defensive magic weapon. Don't be fooled by this name. This Feng Ling's Hu was originally prepared according to the specifications of a treasure. Mr. Lee saw through her thoughts at a glance. It's a pity. My daughter made a treasure for the first time. She has no experience. Something went wrong halfway through, and the treasure didn't take shape. She could only settle for the next best thing, and made a magic weapon. The reason why it's called this name is because my daughter's name is Feng Ling. If it weren't for you being a little girl, I wouldn't have introduced this thing to you. In other words, if a man wanted this thing, he probably wouldn't give it to him. I believe you, sir. I want this fingling pearl. Mr. Lee took out a wooden box from his sleeve and handed it over. Go back and refine it well. It's much more useful than the Dinghe pearl. Yang Zhao took the box and felt that the weight of the wooden box was wrong. It was a wooden box that could be held in one hand, but it was strangely heavy. When she opened the wooden box, she found that it was covered with a layer of velvet inside, and on it was a 16-sided black metal block, half the size of a fist, with the patterns of the formation on each side. It felt heavy in her hand, and she estimated that it must be 60 or 70 kilograms. This is much heavier than the same volume of gold, and she was happy all of a sudden. In Yang Zhao's simple concept, the heavier an object is, the better it is. The heavier the jadeite is, the better the quality is. The same volume of gold and silver is heavier than copper and iron. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Please tell Miss Fingling that I will definitely use this magic weapon well. Mr. Lee also smiled and said, okay, you said well. If there are any shortcomings, please write them down and tell me. Don't worry, you will not lose any benefits. Well, this is also a job as a magic weapon tester. Yang Zhao said goodbye to Mr. Lee and went to Xinglao and Bizhao Joint Chamber of Commerce. After leaving the Yunzhao Guild Hall, she put up a list inside and charged the Dinghe pearl at a high price, twice the market price. She even paid the full amount to Xinglao and Bizhao Joint Chamber of Commerce and said, buy it as long as you have news, without asking for my consent first, even if it is a little more in the end. As long as you come across the Dinghe pearl, you have to buy it, without asking her first. She will go to participate in the competition in a few days. What if the other party is impatient to wait for her? Then she bought a few bottles of fasting pills, a few sets of clothes and a few pairs of shoes. It sounds like a big competition can easily lead to death, and it is estimated that there will be many injuries. She has to prepare all these things so that she will not have no clothes to change when she gets injured. The reason why she did not buy medicine here is that she still has half a jar of sunfish secretions in her hand. That thing is not only very effective for external injuries, but also for internal injuries. It is just a little disgusting psychologically. After eating a meal outside, Yang Zhao went home, and Kat went into the house to carefully study the fingling pearl recommended by Mr. Lee. The whole body of this fingling pearl glowed with a black metallic light. The array patterns on the surface did not seem to be coherent, and it was obviously a bit weird on this 16-sided body. Yang Zhao carefully filled it in with her spiritual power bit by bit, wanting to understand it well. After groping for a long time, she had a rough understanding. There are only 6 organized arrays in this fingling pearl, but there are only 2 basic functions. One is an ordinary array that increases the toughness and hardness of the material. The other is a displacement light array, which means that any attack will slip on the fingling pearl. The reason why the patterns of the magic arrays on the surface look a bit weird is that they are always magic arrays. The magic arrays cannot be formed, and there is no beauty of the array. She came to the yard and activated the wind chime bead with great interest. I saw that the 16 faces of the bead disintegrated and turned into 16 pieces of armor flying in the air. This piece of armor can be placed at most 5 meters square, and the 16 faces add up to 80 square meters. This is probably larger than many people's buildings. Moreover, these 16 pieces of armor can be controlled individually and can also be combined together to lay 16 sides flat. This is like a magic weapon assembled together by building blocks, which can recognize its owner and give full play to his subjective initiative. This fingling bead made her play with it. Sometimes it was laid flat in a single layer, sometimes in a double layer, and even 16 sides were gathered together. She was good at solid geometry. These plates of armor gathered and dispersed around her, and Yang Zhao was almost playing with them. If it weren't for the difficulty in controlling the force, Yang Zhao would have wanted to poke it with his dragon spear. The Gianna long spear on her wrist is a top grade treasure. It is also blessed by the soul of the original body, and its quality is even higher. It's a pity that, since Yang Zhao subdued the Gianna long spear, the Gianna long soul has been in a state of autism. Yang Zhao has to go to the clan soul land every now and then to lead the spiritual consciousness and put it into the traction beam. Every time he goes in, the Jian Along's soul will passively follow her into the soul land, but for such a long time, it has not said a word to Yang Zhao. Yang Zhao took the initiative to greet it, but it ignored him. This Jian Along hates her in his heart and looks down on Yang Zhao's cultivation. The reason why he has not carried out a non-violent non-cooperation movement is because Yang Zhao can suppress it in terms of soul. If you are not honest, you will be at risk of being eaten. The next chapter will be tomorrow at noon. Thank you. Chapter 189. Unexpected Person. Yang Zhao was playing with Feng Lingsu with great interest when she suddenly heard a knock on the door. She subconsciously looked up at the sky. It was bright outside. Could it be that Zhang He and the others had returned with the little bean man in advance? She put away Feng Lingsu, opened the gate, and found a stranger standing outside. She was a girl in her 20s, wearing a pink dress, a pearl hairpin on her head and a bracelet on her wrist. She looked like a lady from a middle-class family. When she saw Yang Zhao coming, she lowered her head and greeted him. "May I know if you are Miss Yang Zhao?" Yang Zhao waved his hands repeatedly. "No, I don't know her. You have the wrong person." Yang, The girl was blocked in her next sentence and couldn't spit it out. "Isn't this Miss Yang's home?" "Miss Yang, don't worry, I'm not a bad person. My master's family is Shanking Commercial Bank in Leiyuan Prefecture. This time I sent you a letter to arrange a meeting tomorrow." This person first confirmed the address and then the identity. But Yang Zhao was taught not to talk to strangers, not to accept things from strangers, and not to follow strangers. "You've got the wrong person. Please go back." Yang Zhao turned around and closed the door. The woman outside sighed twice, and then there was a sound of her leaving. Kang Cheng belongs to Leiyuan Prefecture. Yang Zhao has met the Lord of Leiyuan Prefecture, but she really doesn't know about Shanking Commercial Bank. Yang Zhao returned to the room and checked the things on his body. He put all the weapons in convenient places, such as the Feng Lingsu and the Kyankan bag, into the pocket of his sleeve. Then he contacted Guofu Minqiang and informed them of the unexpected incident. "Yang Zhao, I don't know them. I don't know if they mean well or ill to me. But the time for the magic weapon to measure the positive pressure of spiritual energy should be up. You hurry up and send it over. I will send it to the weapon refiner now. Guofu Minqiang, you must first ensure your safety. I will send you the things prepared for the competition in advance later." "Yang Zhao, I don't know the specific intentions of the other party yet. Don't be so nervous now." "Yang Zhao, besides, this is in Lijiang, a place of all virtues. The other party should not do anything too extreme. Guofu Minqiang, even if you don't need it this time, you have to bring it with you during the competition. Do you have any requirements for those self-defense items?" Yang Zhao, Master Shenroi said that according to the rules of the sect, gunpowder is not allowed to come. Guofu Minqiang, understood. I will take those things out. She was chatting, and there was another knock on the door. Yang Zhao opened the courtyard door and found that in addition to the girl in pink clothes last time, there was another girl in a pink dress. The two of them were wearing the same clothes, but the hairpins on their heads were different. The girl looked calmer. When she saw Yang Zhao coming out, she smiled before she spoke. She took out a purse from her bosom and handed it to her. "Miss Yang, don't tease my sister. The reason why my master sent me to contact you is actually just to do business. There is really no other intention." Yang Zhao took the purse, his face a little gloomy. The purse was empty, with nothing inside. There was a small hole reserved on the fabric of the purse. The hole was reserved for the macro camera. This batch of purses was customized by her and Huanglang Gang. 500 or 600 were customized. Although the styles were different, each purse had a place for a macro camera. "Where did you get this purse?" The girl smiled and said, "Miss, you are embarrassing us now. This is given to us by the master." Then, she took out a note from her bosom and handed it over. "Tomorrow at Changqinglao in Dancheng, my master wants to invite you for a banquet." Yang Zhao took the note and took a look. The signature was Shen Sishan. "Is there only this purse?" "I don't know. We servants can't ask too much." "Do you know me?" Yang Zhao asked again. After all, there are many names that don't match people. The girl didn't hide this question. "Our master has a portrait of you. When I came, I took a look at it. Yang Zhao patted the invitation in his hand. It seems that I have no choice but to go. The girl still smiled. It depends on your decision. Yang Zhao thought for a moment. Okay, I also received the invitation. I will go at noon tomorrow. After sending the two girls away, she went out to the store to buy a few special books. Rangcheng book is a book that can accommodate multiple signatures. When Yang Zhao signs his name will be compressed into a point by the formation, leaving space for the next person to fill in. This one costs 13 taels of silver. According to the store owner, one book can sign more than 3,000 names. This kind of book is mostly used for large-scale signing of the army, fleet, etc. This kind of thing also has a disadvantage, that is, it can only take effect after the signature is signed and burned by a person with spiritual power, rather than immediately after the signature. She sent her Rangcheng book contract back, and waited for the self-defense items that Guo Fumin Qiang would mail to her. In the Qiangkan bag, except for the magic weapon for measuring spiritual energy, the rest were things for her. For example, several bulletproof vests, shoes, medical supplies, and silver. Dozens of tear gas cans were found, as well as some daggers and small instruments. Yang Zhao tried one of the daggers out of curiosity, and it was really sharp enough to cut iron like mud. There were also several safes. Yang Zhao opened them, and saw that they were filled with various liquids and powders, each of which had some chemical names on it, such as dioxin. Dioxin? Why does this name sound so familiar? Yang Zhao quickly searched his brain for memories, and after searching for a long time, he found another name for this thing from a corner, dioxin. There is no gunpowder, and they follow the rules very well. There is also an instruction manual in the safe, which has detailed instructions for use. For example, some can be thrown directly on people's faces, some are colorless and odorless, and can be used to secretly poison, and some fall on the ground and run away. Most of them are things that will make you run away if they fall on the ground. Although Yang Zhao is not familiar with most of the things, she secretly warned herself that she must strictly follow the instructions and not make any mistakes. She took out the magic tool for measuring spiritual energy and sent it to the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce. Soon, the refiner from King's House Square came. Yang Zhao handed the magic tool over. The refiner took the magic tool and looked at it. His expression was a little solemn, and he reported the data on it. These values are very abnormal. It is estimated that most of the magic tools cannot be used there. This is of course according to the information revealed by Guo Fumin Qiang. The small magic tools bought there with money cannot be used normally there. Generally, you have to go up and down the mountains and seas to see the charm of the cultivation world with your own eyes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190, Sensation. Master Qian frowned as she checked the magic weapon. She asked her second brother to get some paper and pen, and wrote and drew on it for a long time before she looked up. According to this data, you need to find some special materials for this magic weapon to protect your heart, so as to improve its sensitivity and resistance to spiritual energy. Those things are not cheap. The price of the finished product is about 7 times that of the original magic weapon. Are you sure you still want me to refine it? Yes, why not? Yang Zhao smiled and poured her tea. It was worth 70 times for the old man. I'll pay you the deposit first. This magic weapon will take Master Qian a lot of effort. I wonder how long it will take to produce the finished product. Master Qian counted in his mind. It will take 15 days to refine. 15 days is a bit long. Master Qian, I will participate in the competition in 10 days. Can you give me some more money to help me reduce the construction period? Master Qian was quite straightforward. Okay, if you give me another salary, I will find another master to help me. I will definitely refine this thing for you before you go to the competition. The two parties signed a supplementary contract for refining magic tools again, and Yang Zhao also paid the deposit to Master Qian. After sending Master Qian, Yang Zhao spent money to inquire about Shanking business in Shenzhen in Laoan Prefecture from the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce. This Shanking business is a new business in Laoan Prefecture in the past few decades. It is a baby level business in the world of cultivation. But the head of Shanking business has a keen eye and clever means. In recent years, Shanking business has developed rapidly and has the intention of developing towards Lighting. It is rumored that their boss is surnamed Shen. When Yang Zhao left the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce, it was completely dark. The lights of the shops on Liangbian Street were bright and bright. It was so late that there were no taxi drivers renting out animal carts. Yang Zhao walked back while thinking about what to do next. There were a lot of things to do these days, and she always felt tired of running around. It seemed that, since she arrived in Lighting, she had more things to do. Oh, Yang Zhao sighed silently. Maybe this is the day of full-time work. It doesn't feel very good. The next day, Yang Zhao took the post and arrived at Changqing Building in the east city of Lighting on time at noon. Changqing Building covers a large area. There are two 6-story buildings facing the street, leaning against each other. Behind the buildings are scattered quiet rooms. The quiet rooms are far apart and separated by trees, flowers, and plants, which looks very elegant. Yang Zhao followed the waiter in Changqing Building to the door of a quiet room and stood there. The waiter went forward and knocked on the door. A guest named Yang Zhao came to visit with a letter. I wonder what Mr. Shen means. After a while, the door opened and a girl in pink clothes came out. Oh, it turns out that Miss Yang is here. Please come in. Our host is waiting for you. Yang Zhao stepped into the house and found that this step was like stepping into the Pansy cave. There were 7 or 8 girls in pink clothes standing inside, including the 2 who went to invite her yesterday. Some of these girls are beautiful, some are dignified and generous, and some are beautiful and cute. For a while, the room was full of beauty and fragrance. Yang Zhao regretted not turning on the video on her mobile phone. It was not easy to meet so many beauties. Just when her eyes were too busy, a clear and pleasant male voice rang in the room. Miss Yang, are you interested in these maids of mine? If you like, I can give you a few. Yang Zhao could only be forced to shift his gaze and saw the young man sitting in the main seat. This young man was tall and broad, wearing a dark red suit with a red gem on the dark black crown on his head. His handsome face with an evil expression made him look a little frivolous. Sorry, I don't engage in human trafficking. Are you Mr. Shen? Yes, I'm Shen Zishan. Shen Zishan raised his hand and pointed to an empty seat. Please sit down, Miss Yang. There is a good dish in Changqing Lao. You can taste it. This man spoke in a rather polite manner. Yang Zhao sat down while complaining in her heart. Immediately, a maid went out to urge the dishes. A maid came to set the bowls and chopsticks for her, and a maid even added a cup of tea for her. This kind of attentive service was the first time Yang Zhao had experienced in her life, and she felt quite flattered. The habit of modern people is to say thank you when being taken care of by others. But when she said thank you, the young ladies who served her felt a little embarrassed. It's what we should do. Miss Yang, you don't have to be polite. Shen Zishan watched their interaction from the other side of the table. His eyes had never left Yang Zhao since she entered the room. His pupils were deep and scrutinizing. The gaze had weight, and Yang Zhao's sight could only shift to Shen Zishan again. He took out the purse from his sleeve and put it on the table. Mr. Shen, I would like to ask, where did you get this purse from? How many purses do you have in total? Miss Yang, don't you want to eat first? This man spoke slowly, with a condescending tone, and he always called Yang Zhao Miss Yang. Well, Yang Zhao always felt like he was being scolded. I think Mr. Shen didn't ask me to come here for dinner. Just then, there was a gentle knock on the door. The maid in the room opened the door, and the waiter from Changqing Lao came in with food and dishes, and soon the table was full. The food was delicious, and Yang Zhao was really hungry after watching it. Obviously, Shen Zishan saw this scene. Miss Yang, let's eat and talk at the same time. There was no alcohol during the meal, only a pot of tea. Yang Zhao picked up the teacup and took a sip. Mr. Shen, let's talk about business first. I wonder where this purse came from and how you found me. Shen Zishan looked at the food on the table with regret and muttered softly. Some of these dishes will lose their taste when they are cold. Seeing that her expression did not change, and she did not mean to eat the dishes first, Shen Sishan had to put aside the meal first. Of course I bought this purse with my own money. In this purse, there is a strand of your hair and a small thing. I'm interested in that small thing. I found Miss Yang through this hair. Through a strand of hair? When did her hair fall into the hands of outsiders? And her location can be determined through a strand of hair. This world of cultivation is indeed a bit weird. I don't know who sold this purse to Mr. Shen. How can you be sure that the hair inside is mine? And I heard that you have a portrait of me in your hand. How did you get this? Did you notice? I changed my profile again. In view of my change of profile, please vote, please vote, please vote. Chapter 191, Pursuit of Cooperation. Miss Yang asked so many questions at once. I really don't know where to start answering. Shen Sishan leaned back slightly and took out a fan from somewhere and started tapping it in his hand. Mr. Shen, you can talk about whatever you want to say. Yang Zhao was not in a hurry and played with the teacup with one hand. Shen Sishan's face showed a bit of helplessness. I bought this purse at the black market a few days ago. There were 2 of them. I got one of them, and I don't know who bought the other one. After hearing this, Yang Zhao's heart skipped a beat. So there was another person who would come to find him? As for how to find Miss Yang, that's even simpler. Linky, my mouth is a little dry, you answer the rest. A maid standing behind Shen Sishan and pouring tea for him agreed coquettishly. Miss Shen, our master has spent some time looking for you. The hair in the purse can only determine your approximate range, which is 10 miles. Yang Zhao frowned a little when he heard it, but he didn't say anything, waiting for her to finish. Ling Cui, in order to determine your specific address, we also took some effort to find the purse seller and got the news that you use the traction beams to call people from other worlds. This time the scope is much smaller. Our master sent more than a dozen people to observe your area. Sure enough, we found that there were many more traction beams shopping in that area. Following those traction beams, we naturally found your home. And this method will not make people feel like they are being followed, because we are not staring at you, we are staring at those traction beams. So Yang Zhao didn't feel like he was being spied on at all. She waited for a while, and when she saw that this person named Ling Cui had no intention of talking anymore, Yang Zhao asked a question herself. Then how did you get my portrait? Ling Cui continued to answer with her eyebrows lowered and her eyes lowered. Because we found that there are 4 people who often come into contact with Yang Zhao these days. Our master was afraid that we would recognize the wrong person, so he spent a sum of money to find a painter and asked the person selling the purse to describe your appearance and draw a portrait of you to facilitate our identification. Yang Zhao gritted his teeth and asked again, can I ask again, who is the person selling the purse? Ling Cui lowered her eyebrows and said nothing, and Shen Sishan, who was playing with the fan, spoke. A little girl named Liu, and the little girl was still a little resentful when talking about you. Miss Yang, you should have some impression of her. Liu Sheng. Yang Zhao once got a set of magic weapon level meridian opening spiritual needles from her. Therefore, the 2 purses she lost by the Junzhao Lake were hidden by Liu Sheng, and she also sold them to others. As for the hair, it was simple. Yang Zhao held her and wandered around Junzhao Lake for several hours that day. If she had a trimmer in her hand, she would have gotten a lot of hair. Besides, it's not that Yang Zhao didn't stop losing hair after building his foundation, but that he lost less hair. Maybe that hair was picked up from her body instead of being pulled out by her hands. However, she didn't understand Liu Sheng's motives for doing this series of things. Yang Zhao kept his promise at that time, and it didn't make any difference. But this question can be put aside for now. She has to solve Shen Sishan's problem first. So why did Mr. Shen ask me to come this time? Of course, it's to make money. Shen Sishan's expression was much more serious this time. I want to cooperate with those people who are possessed by the Yang beam. I want you to help me and build a bridge. It turned out that he didn't really come to her, but to Guo Fumin Qiang and others. I don't know what kind of cooperation you want to discuss. Are you interested? Please tell me in detail, so that I can tell the other party and ask if they are interested. Shen Sishin took out an exquisite small wooden box from his sleeve, opened the wooden box, and a miniature camera was revealed inside. I'm interested in this. It's really too delicate, and it's a completely unfamiliar thing, completely beyond my knowledge. What does this represent? Faced with his question, Yang Zhao didn't want to speak at all. What does it represent? It represents money. Yang Zhao had thought about making this money several months ago, but she had never found a good entry point. Moreover, whether this thing can be exported and how much it can be exported is not something she can decide, nor can it be decided by a single person. It is estimated that it will take several meetings to determine it. Seeing that she didn't speak, Shen Sishin thought she wanted to profit from it. Don't worry about this. As long as I can reach a cooperation with those people, you will definitely get the benefits. Yang Zhao knocked on the table. Professional things naturally need to be done by professionals, and this may really be a good entry point. Even if she can't make this money herself, she can still earn the logistics fee in the middle. This logistics fee is something that no one can save. I can help you contact the other party, but whether they agree to cooperate or not is their business. I have no right to make a promise. Shen Sishin's smile finally showed a look of joy. You have done well to this extent. Don't worry, you will get the benefits after the cooperation is successful. Yang Zhao didn't waste any words. She stood up and took out 2 spare beans from her Kayankan bag on the spot. She would have 2 spare beans every day. These 2 beans didn't have to come, but they would definitely lie on the bed waiting for her call when she was active. This was a safety buckle designed by her NGO Fumin Qiang, just to deal with some situations where emergency communication was required. After all, Yang Zhao didn't dare to take out her Dao card casually, for fear of being remembered by others. She transferred some spiritual power into the Qiang bean, and threw it on the ground, and 2 little bean people grew out. The 2 spoke in Chinese. Comrade Yang, I don't know why you urgently called us over. What's the matter? Yang Zhao pointed at Shen Sishin with her chin. I want you to tell your superiors that Mr. Shen Sishin wants to discuss trade cooperation with you and would like to ask if you are interested. Although the 2 little bean people have plant bodies, they can also feel their eyes light up. Comrade Yang, don't worry, I will go back and tell them. You can call me back in 5 minutes. After saying that, it turned into a bean, leaving the other little bean standing stupidly beside. Shen Sishin looked at Yang Zhao's actions with curiosity and asked, I don't understand their conversation with you, so can they speak our language? It seems that they are worried about their subsequent negotiations and communication problems. Yang Zhao, some of them can, some can't. Mr. Shen, you don't have to worry that I will interfere. Shen Sishin laughed. Why would I doubt Miss Yang? Even if they don't know the language here, I have a magic weapon in my hand that can communicate with everything. Chapter 192, Jealousy. Yang Zhao never knew how long 5 minutes was, but she felt it now. Shen Sishin sat next to her, doing nothing but looking at her with a smile, which made her feel uncomfortable. Mr. Shen, if you have anything to say, just say it. Shen Sishin turned over the fan with a smile. I just don't know what Miss Yang is thinking. Normally, most people would fight for this kind of thing. After all, it's money. But Miss Yang is beyond my expectation. You gave up too easily. Yang Zhao lowered her eyes and touched the teacup. She understood what the other party meant. Yang Zhao could make a fortune from the information gap in this kind of thing. And no one could trouble her for this money, and they even understood her very well. But some things have to be sacrificed to gain. Her cultivation is the foundation. Putting too much thought on other things will not be worth the gain. If she puts her mind on how to make a profit from the information gap every day, how can she have the mind to practice? For this kind of business communication, we naturally need professionals. I'm not a smart person, and it is not suitable for me to participate in things I do not understand. She looked up at Shen Sishin sincerely and said, Mr. Shen, what I want to know now is who has the other purse. The other purse is a hidden landmine, and it is unknown when it will explode. I don't know who has the other purse. If I knew, I would definitely grab that purse. After all, in business, it is more profitable to do it alone. Shen Sishin smiled and said, and it was hard to tell whether what he said was true or false. Yang Zhao smiled perfunctorily, thinking about going to find Liu Sheng later. She was the seller, and she must know who she sold it to. Although there were many people in the room, Yang Zhao fell silent, and the whole room was quiet. The 7 or 8 girls in pink clothes were like mannequins, and even their breathing could not be heard. The other little bean man who stayed in the room also stayed quietly beside Yang Zhao. Yang Zhao estimated that the time was about right, so she stood up and took out a small wooden box from her Kyankan bag. There were 6 Kyanji beans in it. She poured her spiritual power into it and threw it on the ground. 6 little bean people rose from the ground. Yang Zhao squatted down and asked in Chinese, "Are there any people who can speak the local dialect this time?" A little bean person stepped forward to answer, "Yes, but after all, I have never lived here, so I may not know some words. I still need to trouble Comrade Yang to listen carefully to correct our mistakes." Yang Zhao nodded, then stood up and introduced them to Shen Sishan, who had already walked over. "This is Mr. Shen Sishan from Xianqin Commercial Bank in Leiyuan Prefecture. This time he wants to discuss cooperation with you. Mr. Shen, these 6 other principals over there. I believe that both sides will be good partners for cooperation." Shen Sishan looked at Yang Zhao thoughtfully and greeted the little bean people with a smile. "I'm Shen Sishan from Xianqin Company. Nice to meet you all here." A little bean man stretched out his hand habitually, then raised it awkwardly and clasped his fists uncommonly. "I'm Liu Yazhang from Yang Zhao Company." The other little bean men also followed Liu Yazhang and clasped their fists to leave their names. However, some people spoke the local language and some spoke Chinese. Shen Sishan greeted them one by one with a smile and then led them to the other side of the quiet room. There was a low table more than 3 meters long, and there was a futon underneath. The maids in pink clothes quickly served tea and water and presented paper and pens, and then began to quietly clear the dishes on the dining table without being told. It took the 8 little maids only a few minutes to carry the dishes, and after clearing them, they bowed to everyone and went out to close the door. After the idle people in the room could leave, Shen Sishan and Liu Yazhang had a friendly and enthusiastic exchange. At first, Yang Zhao thought they would discuss the types or quantities of some imported and exported goods, but after listening to them, she found that most of them were meaningless praises and admiration for each other, and they didn't talk much about business. They were all win-win cooperation between the 2 sides. The interests of both sides are consistent, and the 2 sides will carry out multi-dimensional exchanges and other polite words. When Yang Zhao left Changqinglao, he was still a little confused, not knowing what they talked about in the past half day. Liu Yazhang looked at her and asked with a smile, "Why didn't you understand what we said?" Yang Zhao shook her head honestly. "Ha ha 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 ha, we have determined 2 things in this half day. One is that we are willing to cooperate and have the intention to cooperate. The second is that, if we want to cooperate, we must guarantee your safety." When did he say this? Why didn't she remember it? Liu Yazhang pointed to the notebook that Shen Sishan gave them before they left. "This is the scope of cooperation that Shen Sishan wants. Let's go back and study it, and then give him ours. The first cooperation is simple. In other words, although both parties knew that they could do a big business, both parties were willing to start cooperation from a small business." Yang Zhao thought about it and realized that doing business was indeed a headache, and it was better to practice and save trouble. After leaving Changqing Tower, the little bean people went back. She put away the beans on the ground, identified the direction for a while, and started to go to Liu Sheng's house. She thought Liu Sheng would hide from her, but he opened the door and invited her into the house. "Did someone find Senior Yang with a purse?" Yang Zhao looked at her inexplicably. "Why did you sell my purse? If you are in financial difficulty, you can tell me. I can pay money to redeem the 2 purses, and the price I offer is definitely not lower than anyone else." Liu Sheng brought tea with a smile. "Why should I sell it to you? I sold the purse just to cause trouble for Senior Yang." Yang Zhao frowned when he heard this. "Why? We have no grudges. If you are reluctant to give up the set of silver needles, you can tell me, and I can give you more silver. If that doesn't work, I can still return it to you." I don't know which sentence touched her pain point. Liu Sheng's temper exploded all of a sudden, and she screamed hysterically. What do you mean by no grudges? My opportunity. That was obviously my opportunity, but in the end it was robbed by you, and you used some kind of pulling beans? After robbing it, why didn't you say a word for me? She can keep 200 pulling beans, so she can keep me too. What's the result? In the end, you took my ancestral silver needles and treated me as nothing, while your pulling beans got the benefits. How can I be willing to do it? Yang Zhao looked at the other party's flushed face and couldn't help grinding his teeth. What he said, is the beautiful woman in black a person who is controlled by others? She and the beautiful woman in black were just casual acquaintances. It was their first meeting, and Yang Zhao didn't think she had the nerve to ask that expert to accept an unqualified nanny. Chapter 193, Key. The Junzhao Lake incident was essentially about recruiting a nanny and a playmate. Which parent would tolerate having an unsuitable person around her child? In modern society, ordinary people will screen again and again when looking for a nanny for their children. What's more, these big men with extremely high cultivation, you can be unqualified as his employee, and he will at most hire you. If you are unqualified as the nanny of someone else's son, he wants to eat you. Not only does he want to eat the nanny, he also wants to eat the middleman who introduced the nanny. But looking at Liu Sheng with a ferocious expression, Yang Zhao knew that no matter what he said now, she would not listen. Besides, the two purses had been sold. Did Yang Zhao still want to explain to her in a nice tone? I don't care what you think, just tell me who you sold the other purse to. Liu Sheng suddenly became happy. He looked at Yang Zhao with a gentle expression, and the malice in his eyes could not be suppressed. Who did you sell it to? I tell you, I sold it on the black market, and I don't know who bought it. Anyway, I want you to worry about it in the days to come, and make you regret not saying a word for me that day. This was the first time Yang Zhao had met such a person since she was a child. As expected, as people live longer, they will meet all kinds of people. She looked at Liu Sheng with a cold face. So you don't know where the purse went? Even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. You are just a country bumpkin. You don't take me seriously because of your cultivation. Liu Sheng looked proud and provocative in his eyes. Yang Zhao bit her back teeth in anger, but she glanced at the room and suppressed her anger. From the moment she entered the room, she felt a chill on the back of her head, and this feeling suppressed her temper and anger. Then I wish you all the best. Yang Zhao stood up and wanted to go out, but who knew that Liu Sheng actually ran a few steps and stopped in front of her. You actually want to leave like this? I tell you. Sure. Yang Zhao put away the magic spell on his hand, walked around her and walked out. You country bumpkin, you coward, you bastard who snatched other people's opportunities. Yang Zhao had just walked out a few steps when the magic spell on Liu Sheng suddenly dissolved itself. As soon as she was free, she chased after her from behind, cursing. Yang Zhao was certain in her heart that, because the spell was not solved by her, there was indeed such a person hiding in the dark in the yard observing all this. She turned her spiritual power, used the light body spell, and walked out of the yard. She could still hear Liu Sheng's hysterical shouting and cursing from a long distance away. But what Yang Zhao didn't know was that just a while after she left, a tall man walked out of the inner room. Don't curse, she has already walked far away. Didn't you say she was a country bumpkin who didn't know the rules in Liujing? Liu Sheng was really angry this time. She stared at the door with red eyes. Sir, did she find you? The man's expression suddenly turned cold. Why, Miss Liu is blaming me. How could that be? It was Liu Sheng who made a mistake. Liu Sheng hurriedly smiled and apologized, and took out a heavy purse from his arms, and stuffed it into the man's pocket. Sir, you have been working hard these days. Take these and have tea. For the sake of the silver, I will keep you for a few more days. The man weighed the weight of the purse in his hand, and finally stuffed the purse into his arms with satisfaction. But we have also agreed that I can only take action if she takes action first. Otherwise it will be difficult for me to shirk responsibility if the government investigates. Of course, of course. Liu Sheng smiled. I also wanted to use the power of the government to take down Yang Zhao. Naturally, I know the rules. I just didn't know she was so timid. I was in the key refining stage and insulted her so much, but she actually held back and didn't hit me. Ever since Liu Sheng was found by Shen Sishan and asked to cooperate with the painter to draw a portrait of Yang Zhao, Liu Sheng knew that Yang Zhao would come to trouble her. On the same day, she spent a lot of money to invite a government helper to come over and protect her closely for the next few days. If Yang Zhao really dared to make a move, she would put her in jail. It's a pity that Yang Zhao actually injured it. It seems that she has to think of other ways. Yang Yun, she cursed so badly. Sister, didn't you hit her? After Yang Zhao returned home, he became more and more angry and couldn't help but post a circle of friends. This was the first time she posted a circle of friends after crossing. A few minutes later, her brother Yang Yun sent her a message. Yang Zhao, don't you know who is at fault, who started the fight first? You will be bankrupted by the medical expenses. Yang Yun, but isn't your place a world of cultivation? It is rumored that people often kill and burn in that world of cultivation. Besides, she cursed first. Yang Zhao, that's a novel, okay? We have laws here, and they are very strict. Besides, I always feel like someone is watching me. I guess she is just waiting for me to make a mistake. Yang Yun, sister, just wait. I will beat her to death when I get there. Yang Zhao, okay, I'll wait for you to help me find a place. You haven't contacted me for a long time. How's your cultivation been recently? Yang Yun, it's not that I don't want to contact you, but we have collected all the mobile phones here. If you hadn't been on the plane and gave me the phone, I wouldn't have known that you were angry. Yang Yun, I'm practicing pretty well now, and my strength is getting stronger and stronger. These days we are learning to pinch the fingers and chant the spells. It's not easy to learn. My fingers are almost broken from learning it. Yang Zhao, you study hard now, and I'll let you come over to my place in a few days to play and see the cultivators here. Yang Yun, sees, really? I've wanted to go over to see you for a long time, but I've always been busy with work and couldn't get away. Yang Zhao, take care of yourself and remember to contact your parents more often. Yang Yun, got it. It's time for me to play with my phone. Yang Zhao, bye, carrot, I hate you. She put down her phone. She injured it in the house for a long time, but still felt aggrieved. She stepped out of the yard, walked into a restaurant and started eating. Now she eats a lot, is not afraid of getting fat, and naturally has no taboos. She eats whatever is delicious, and is not afraid of anything. After eating a table full of food, when her mood calmed down, Yang Zhao returned home, and began to think about how to teach Liu Sheng a lesson. But she has never done anything since she was a child, such as deliberately causing trouble for others. After thinking for a long time, she finally came up with an idea that was not a big deal. She should be able to wait at Liu Sheng's house, find a place where she is alone, put a sack on her, and beat her up. As for more serious punishments, such as murder, Yang Zhao could not think of it. She is still a student who has received modern education. Her family is not lacking in love, and there are no violent people around her. She would not take the life of others without being forced into a desperate situation. Chapter 194, Lu Yun. Originally, she wanted to put a sack on Liu Sheng, but Yang Zhao thought too much. Before the competition, she had no time to find fault. On the one hand, she had to take Xiaodaran and Shen Sishan's employees to discuss the transaction in detail, mainly to serve as a supplementary translator. On the other hand, it was about the establishment of Yang Zhao Trading Company in Linjing. You must abide by the law and pay taxes according to the law when doing business, otherwise the business would be illegal. Xiaodaran was fine, but Yang Zhao was at risk of going to jail. Xiaodaran, who had been transformed into a bean, had no human rights here and could not go to the government to run the procedures for the establishment of Yang Zhao Trading Company. Yang Zhao had to do all this himself. From determining the scope of trade goods to the recipients of trade, and even the assessment of the impact of goods on the environment and humanities of this world. Yang Zhao needed to memorize all of these, so that he could respond to questions from the government at any time. Fortunately, as a partner, Shen Sishan extended a helping hand to Yang Zhao and specially assigned a girl who was familiar with the process to help her, so that she could avoid many detours. Yang Zhao was busy with the affairs of Yang Zhao Trading Company, so the detailed research of the competition could only be handed over to Guo Fuminqiang for analysis. There was only her here, but Guo Fuminqiang had hundreds of people to command. That night, Yang Zhao politely sent the little girl back home and took out her phone to communicate with Guo Fuminqiang about the company's affairs. But just as she put her Dao card on the back of her phone, Guo Fuminqiang sent a new message. Guo Fuminqiang, put aside the business of the company for now. There are some problems with the information about the provincial school competition that you sent over. You need to understand it carefully. Yang Zhao, is the situation very dangerous? Guo Fuminqiang, you'd better find someone familiar with this place, called Luoyuan to ask. Guo Fuminqiang, because we calculated and studied, based on the materials you gave us, and found that the physical constants estimated from the description given in the information are inconsistent with the physical constants we calculated for the planet you are on. Yang Zhao, what do you mean? Guo Fuminqiang, it means that these two places may not be on the same planet, or this place is underground. Guo Fuminqiang, of course, it may also be, because the cultivation world does not follow the scientific principles we have discovered, and we are worrying too much, so you need to find someone familiar to ask. Guo Fuminqiang, picture point PDF. Guo Fuminqiang, picture point PDF. Guo Fuminqiang, we don't recommend you to participate in this competition. Shen Sishan has agreed to help with the Dinghebaozu. There are still 3 or 4 days before the competition starts. You need to think about it carefully. Yang Zhao, I understand. She looked at the picture sent by Guo Fuminqiang in silence, and the light in her eyes became brighter and brighter. Although she couldn't understand the calculation process, she knew the Chinese characters on the conclusion. She turned out the original data of Luoyuan and read it carefully. The information provided by Yang Zhao Prefecture School was very comprehensive, such as the introduction of Luoyuan's flora and fauna, and which flora and fauna were dangerous. For example, the introduction of its day and night temperature difference. The difference between day and night is large, and the students are reminded to be prepared. For example, the air and water there are rare items, and can only be found in designated locations. For example, the necessary items to prepare for Luoyuan and the detailed information of the enemy. To be honest, Yang Zhao didn't understand how Guo Fuminqiang relied on this material to estimate the physical constants. It can only be said that the gap between people is not much smaller than that between people and monkeys. But even if the conclusions they came to were full of dangers, and it was not recommended to participate, Yang Zhao wanted to take a look. In other words, after seeing the conclusion that Luoyuan might not be on this planet, Yang Zhao wanted to take a look even more. With excitement, Yang Zhao sent the little bean man to Shen Sishan the next day, explained to his men, and went to Yang Zhao Guild Hall alone. The details of the commodity transaction these days were discussed with Shen Sishan's men, and Shen Sishan himself usually did not show up. Mr. Li from Yang Zhao Academy saw Yang Zhao coming to ask about Luoyuan, and an unspeakable expression hung on his face. I saw you didn't come here these days, and I thought you were familiar with the place a long time ago. I didn't expect that you dared to delay asking until today, when you were not familiar with it. Yang Zhao could only smile at the side. I have been busy with other things these days. Look, I came to see you today, as soon as I finished reading the information yesterday. Mr. Li took Yang Zhao into the house, pointed to a chair, and asked her to sit down. Tell me, what do you want to see me about? Sir, is Luoyuan far from us? How do we get there? Mr. Li sat opposite her. Luoyuan is the border. It must be very far from here. We have to use the teleportation array first, and then take the crossing boat, to fly for 2 days to get there. Is Luoyuan in the sky? Yang Zhao stretched out his hand and pointed upwards. Mr. Li nodded. Yes, so you must study the information I gave you carefully. When you leave later, you can get a set of necessary items for going to Luoyuan from me. Yang Zhao's eyes lit up. Free. Mr. Li said with a smile. What are you thinking? It's not free. So you can still buy one yourself outside, but we are ordered by Yang Zhao Academy in conjunction with many other academies and merchants, and the price will be much more favorable. Yang Zhao's eyes darkened, but if what Mr. Lee said was true, those necessities would indeed be cheaper to buy here at Yang Zhao Academy than outside. The power of the university in this regard is much greater than being a student. The prefectural school here is a bit like the university she attended. Then I would like to ask, the cabins on the ferry are large. Can I rent a few more cabins? Mr. Lee looked at her in confusion. You are alone. Why do you need so many rooms? Yang Zhao took out a traction bean from his arms. I'm in the tourism business. Mr. Lee, you should know that many people have never taken a ferry, let alone seen the scenery outside the sky. Mr. Lee looked at her with a smile and said, this may be a bit difficult. The ferry that takes you to Luoyuan is provided by the army. They allocate the cabins on the ferry according to the number of people. It is unlikely that they will change the rules for you alone. Yang Zhao, then can I summon the traction bean on the ferry? Mr. Lee, this is okay. It is a kind of magic, as long as the traction bean does not cause trouble to others. But you can't summon too many. A cabin can only accommodate 2 or 3 people. Yang Zhao was relieved now, and began to ask Mr. Lee about other things. The two of them chatted for a whole morning, and when it was noon, Yang Zhao even accompanied Mr. Lee for a meal. When she left in the afternoon, she spent more than 20 taels of silver to buy a set of necessary items for Luoyuan from Yang Zhao Academy. The next chapter will be updated at noon. Don't wait. Chapter 195, Young People. Yang Zhao curiously looked through Luoyuan's essential items, and there were only 3 things in it. An automatic water storage device that looked like a cup, filled with fresh water. She poured out a little, and soon the cup was full of water again. A fist-sized black clod of soil, dry, in a small cloth bag. This thing looked a little unreliable. Yang Zhao tied the cloth bag, and put it back, and looked at the next thing. The rest was a piece of silver grey gauze, 2 meters square, as thin as a cicada's wing, and it was easy to see through words. But these 2 things didn't even have an instruction manual. Who knew what it was for? Yang Zhao held the things, and asked the person who distributed the things at Yang Zhao Academy. Unfortunately, the person's temper was obviously not very good, and he only replied faintly to her question. Just hold it, don't move. You'll know when the time comes. Yang Zhao smiled beside him. Sir, tell me first, so that I can have a clear idea. The man was unmoved. If I tell you, many people will waste it first. Just don't move. You will know how to use it when you get there. Otherwise you can take it, and I will give it to you when you get there. It seems that this person has suffered losses in this regard. Otherwise he would not be so strict. Yang Zhao smiled and took back the things and left embarrassedly. It was still early. She rented a car to go to the place where Shen Sishan stayed to meet Xiaodaran. Who knew that when she arrived at the place, she actually ran into Shen Sishan, who had not shown up for several days. He sat next to him playing with a fan and listening to Xiaodaran and his men discussing. 7 or 8 maids in the room silently added tea and water, prepared pens and ink. When this person was not there, no maids ever came here to help. When Shen Sishan saw Yang Zhao at the door, he winked, and the 2 of them came out of the house together and strolled slowly in the yard. The sun was shining brightly, but the wind was a bit strong, making people's clothes rustle. If he had a choice, Yang Zhao would not want to hang around outside. I heard that you are going to participate in the prefectural school competition. That's right, I will go with Yang Zhao prefectural school in a few days. This is not confidential information. Yang Zhao said it very happily. Shen Sishan fiddled with the fan in his hand nonchalantly. I don't want you to participate. It will delay the progress of our cooperation. Can't you stay here honestly? Yang Zhao said gently. Mr. Shen, you also know about this matter. I didn't intervene from the beginning. These days, I just played the role of a translator. I will leave the Kyanji beans for you before I leave. You can discuss it in detail by yourselves when the time comes. In other words, it didn't matter whether Yang Zhao was there or not. Shen Sishan sneered. Although you didn't intervene in this matter, you are the only one who can take charge of Yan'an Commercial Bank. Others are not recognized by the government. Once you leave, a large part of the things will be postponed. I will try my best to finish everything in the next few days. Mr. Shen, don't worry. Yang Zhao secretly pinched a wind calling spell and set up a wind wall around herself to block the whistling cold wind. Shen Sishan saw her little action and directly fanned twice with the fan in her hand. The next second, the cold wind in the whole yard stopped. But how much can you get by participating in the competition? Those things are probably not enough for my Shine King commercial bank's profit for half a day. If you run Yang Zhao commercial bank well, you can earn back those things in a few days. Why bother to risk your life? Because I want to broaden my horizons, which is beneficial to my path. I'm a bit stupid, and I can't concentrate on improving my cultivation. Seeing that the cold wind had stopped, Yang Zhao released the spell in his hand. Please forgive me, Master Shen. I understand. Young people, who hasn't been practicing for a few years, and is full of vigor and energy, ready to make progress. Shen Sishan's tone was full of nostalgia. But in a few years you will know that some things will not always work out just because you want to. It's better for people to be down to earth and grab what they can grab. Yang Zhao looked at him curiously. Why, Master Shen, do you feel this way? Shen Sishan smiled brightly. No, this is what others advised me when I was young. I'm using this sentence to advise you. In this world of cultivation, you can't estimate someone's age by looking at his appearance. Yang Zhao always thought that this person was about the same age as her, but now it seems that she was wrong again. Mr. Shen, you have never listened to words. How can you use words to persuade me? You have to make me bruised and bloody before your words can be intimidating. Shen Sishan turned the fan and asked her, are you sure you don't regret it? What is there to regret? Okay, this time I'm a bad guy in vain. For the sake of our business, you must come back alive. Shen Sishan threw the fan in his hand into Yang Zhao's arms. Take it, I will save your life when necessary. Yang Zhao was a little confused holding the fan and stretched out his hand to give it back. How can I have the nerve to take your things? Keep it. This wind and fire fan was exchanged from me by those Yang Zhao with the profits from future business, just to save your life in the big competition. Shen Sishan put his hands behind his back without caring, turned around and walked back. Go back and refine this fan. Yang Zhao was really confused this time, because Guofuming Qiang did not tell her about this matter in advance. Watching Shen Sishan's figure going away, she flipped the fan in her hand, chased him from behind, and returned to the house together. She tried several times to find out from Shen Sishan what kind of profit Guofuming Qiang and his team had paid to get this wind and fire fan. Unfortunately, Shen Sishan was very tight-lipped and didn't say a word, just let her go back and ask Yang Zhao. After the evening discussion, Yang Zhao went home after dinner, put the Dao card on his mobile phone, and started to contact Guofuming Qiang. Yang Zhao, Shen Sishan gave me the wind and fire fan in his hand. What conditions did you negotiate for it? Guofuming Qiang, it's not much, it's just that the previous business was not profitable. It's worth it for me to exchange it for something that can save your life. Yang Zhao, thank you very much. Guofuming Qiang, what do you have to thank me for? Now you are alone there, and we can't guarantee your safety. It's already very frustrating. Yang Zhao looked at these words with mixed feelings, and the corners of his mouth were stupidly raised and couldn't be put down for a while. Yang Zhao, thank you very much. Yang Zhao, I confirmed with Yang Zhao Academy that Luoyan is indeed not on this planet. From what they said, it will take a long time to get there by spaceship. Yang Zhao, I will try to bring a few more traction beans in. Do you think we should find some suitable people to come? Chapter 196, Solution. Guofuming Qiang was very surprised by the news. He told Yang Zhao to confirm the number of people he could bring, and then hurriedly logged off. In addition to taking pills to practice, Yang Zhao spent the rest of his time thinking about this matter. How can he bring the most traction beans? After all, there are only 2 days left. After thinking about it, the best way is to spend money. Money can not only make the devil push the mill, but also make the mill push the devil. The next morning, Yang Zhao turned on the camera of her mobile phone, put it in her school bag, adjusted the shooting angle, and prepared to shoot a day's daily life today. She hasn't updated the video for a few days, so she will make up for it today. After leaving home, she went to the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce first. Today is the day to receive the heart-protecting magic weapon. Master Khan was waiting for her at the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce early. The two didn't say much when they met and asked the shop assistant to find them a quiet room where they could inspect the magic weapon. Master Khan didn't say anything nonsense. He took out a fist-sized magic weapon from his arms and handed it to Yang Zhao to see. The whole body of this magic weapon is made of wood, with edges and corners on the surface and joints, like it was spliced together with building blocks. Does it have a name? Master Khan shook his head. Generally, the name of magic weapon is given by its owner. You can think of one. I'm not its owner. Let's wait for its owner to name it. They put the magic weapon and the acceptance magic weapon for inspection, and the result was naturally qualified. Master Khan took the heart-protecting magic weapon and input spiritual power. The heart-protecting magic weapon instantly decomposed into small pieces of wood. These wood pieces were of different colors, but roughly the same shape. Then these wood pieces were laid flat on the ground to form a square with a side length of more than 30 centimeters. The wood pieces of different colors were laid out in a complex pattern. This shape is specially set according to the spiritual energy boost value of your side. They are laid flat on the ground to increase the area of contact with spiritual energy, which can better absorb spiritual energy to operate the formation inside. Master Khan squatted down and pointed at the heart-protecting magic weapon with his finger and introduced it in detail. Yang Zhao adjusted the angle of his school bag and listened quietly. From time to time, he would ask a few questions obediently to guide Khan Ki to introduce more. Master Khan's introduction is very important. Whether it is her design concept or the reason why she chose a certain material, it is very important experience. This knowledge can greatly benefit beginners who have just come into contact with the industry of refining, and it is what the country needs most. The value of this experience is no less than that heart-protecting magic weapon. Although Yang Zhao didn't understand, she knew how to be a student that the teacher liked. Master Khan looked proud, and Yang Zhao looked at her with admiration. Master Khan frowned slightly, so she served her a cup of tea. Seeing that she might not want to continue, Yang Zhao asked a more sophisticated question. Of course, compliments poured out of Yang Zhao's mouth, like they were free of charge, praising Master Khan to the sky. Master Khan introduced a small magic weapon for an hour. At the end, in addition to the refining fee, Yang Zhao stuffed another 20 silver coins as hard work fee. Master Khan, you really made it very well. You can keep these tea money. Next time I come to you to practice magic tools, you can't say you don't know me. Ha 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 ha, who wouldn't like a customer as generous as you? How could I say I don't know you? I'm just afraid that you will look down on my craftsmanship at that time. Master Khan said modestly, but the smug look on his face could not be suppressed. Everyone has the habit of being a teacher. She, a teacher, won the admiration of students with just a few words. During the teaching process, the students' feedback was also very timely. In the end, the students willingly offered tea money. This is simply the greatest enjoyment for a person. If it weren't for the inappropriate status, Master Khan would even want to test Yang Zhao on the spot. Putting away the magic tools, the two left the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce happily. Yang Zhao bought a rancheng book contract at the Northern Zhao United Chamber of Commerce, wrote the content, and stuffed it into his arms. She bought a 3-foot-long white cloth from a cloth shop, borrowed a pen and ink, and wrote a few big characters on the cloth. After the characters dried, she rolled it up and held it in her arms. After she arrived at the Yang Zhao Guild Hall, she first looked for the teachers of the academy, showed them the rancheng book contract, and then unfolded the white cloth for them to see. Sir, do you think I can do this? Mr. Lee looked at the characters on the white cloth, and then looked at the rancheng book contract, and almost pulled his beard off. It stands to reason that this does not violate the rules, but the silver you gave is too much. Sir, you are joking. After all, those who can be admitted to the academy are all chosen by heaven. I'm afraid that no one will be willing to do less. Yang Zhao looked at the gentleman with a smile. I wonder if you gentlemen want to get involved. Mr. Lee looked a little surprised. We can, too. Why not, sir? Don't you want to take the flying boat across the border? The gentlemen discussed with each other for a few sentences and finally agreed. Seeing that they agreed to her, Yang Zhao thanked them excitedly, spent half a teal of silver to find a table and chair, and put it at the entrance of Yang Zhao Guild Hall, and placed the pen, ink, and book contract on the table. She shook her wrist, replaced the Jayana long spear, and inserted it next to the table, and finally hung the 3 white cloths on the Jayana long spear. It was written on it, recruiting people to take the crossing boat, and bring the traction beans, 10 teals of silver for 1 bean, and 2 beans at most. The students of Yang Zhao Prefecture School who passed by looked at her posture, and pointed at her. At first, no one dared to come. But 20 teals of silver was not a small amount, and finally 2 students could not resist the temptation, ran over secretly, and signed the book contract. Yang Zhao first gave a deposit of half a teal of silver for each traction bean. The rest of the silver will be given to you when you receive the traction beans. The 2 left happily. Their attempt was like opening a gate, and soon more and more students came to sign the book contract, one after another. Even the teachers of the academy came to sign and receive the deposit. A total of 37 people from the entire Yang Zhao Academy signed the book contract with Yang Zhao, which means there are a total of 74 vacancies for the Little Bean people. Then Yang Zhao tried to set up stalls in other academy residences to recruit students from other schools. Unfortunately, the harvest this time was not ideal. There were only 42 people in total, which was not much more than the Yang Zhao Academy alone. But she did not despise it. She agreed with those people on the time to give the beans, and signed her name. Then the book contract spontaneously combusted, and those people had a red silk thread on their wrists, just like Yang Zhao. After she finished everything, she hurried home. Guo Fumin Qiang was still waiting for her news. Now time was tight and there was no time to delay. She cut out the part that Master Qian explained, and sent it to Guo Fumin Qiang. Yang Zhao, video point zip Yang Zhao, the heart protecting magic weapon has been refined. I can send it back to you today. Because there is no full attendance award for the female frequency, I want to compete for the list, so I adjusted the update time and frequency in the past few days to ask for monthly tickets. I will update 1 chapter each in the morning, afternoon, and evening these days, which means I will update 3 chapters in the next few days. So if you finish reading it in the evening, don't wait. Thank you, boss. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197, 3000 yuan for the boat ticket. Obviously, the explanation video made Guo Fumin Qiang very surprised. Guo Fumin Qiang, thank you very much, Comrade Yang. We will double the money you give us, and give your parents some money to buy groceries. Yang Zhao, thank you very much. Stay away from my dad. He has a bad heart. Guo Fumin Qiang, don't worry. We have experience after what happened last time. Guo Fumin Qiang, I wonder if the number of traction beans has been determined. Yang Zhao, this time, I can bring a total of 118 little bean people on the ferry. 18 of them will be reserved for me, and the remaining 100 will be given to you. Yang Zhao also casually cut and sent the video of her buying the quota on the ship from the students. Yang Zhao, video point zip Yang Zhao, but the safety of these little bean people is not guaranteed. They may take them up and leave them alone. 10 teals of silver for each little bean person. Guo Fumin Qiang, it's okay. As long as they can be taken up, I will implement this matter as soon as possible. Seeing Guo Fumin Qiang disappear quickly, Yang Zhao also quickly edited the video he shot today and finally posted it online with his own big head video. Limited time flash sale of the Crossing World Flying Boat event. The boat ticket is 3000 yuan. First come first served. 10 teals of silver is about 3000 yuan. Then, a purchase link was added under the video, and the number of products was set to 18. K Agricultural University. Li Baining was tired like a dog on the playground under the scorching sun. Since traveling in the cultivation world once, he has completely had a new life goal, and watching the arena fight, that time opened the door to a new world for him. He has been running to exercise recently, and the 8-section brocade taught in school is practiced by the physical education teacher every day, for fear that he is not practicing it properly. In his spare time, he learned the language of the cultivation world in the first group of Unang Temple Cultivation, and now he knows two simple daily expressions. He tried his best to prepare for cultivation. Ding, the anchor you follow has updated the video. Lee Baining opened his mobile phone to watch the video and found a new link below. He didn't have time to watch the video and placed an order for the things on the link first. Finally, he realized that the order was 3,000 yuan. This made him feel a little nervous. His monthly living expenses were only 2,000 yuan. Fortunately, the merchant returned the winter clothes he bought a few days ago, so he could live a little better this month. After spending 3,000 yuan, his living expenses were stretched, but looking at the order, he really didn't want to return it, so he could only watch the video first. The content of this video was relatively plain. The first half was a person and a magic weapon, and the second half was the blogger setting up a stall. The whole video translated a few sentences in the middle. Carry beans on the flying boat to cross the world, 10 taels of silver for attraction bean. The second half was a big head video she recorded with her mobile phone. New customers pay 3,000 yuan for the boat ticket and 3,000 yuan for the tour. Old customers who keep their pods intact only pay 3,000 yuan for the boat ticket. Since the anchor is not leading the group this time, the tour time will depend on the personality of the other leaders. Since the cost is high this time, please be careful to avoid risks. Old customers who fail to get the boat ticket can experience a one-day tour of Linjing. No shopping, no shopping, no shopping on this trip. Li Bei looked at his bill for the second time and understood that he had got the boat ticket. When he clicked the link again, the system showed that there was no stock. The comment section below was even more exciting, with many comments updated every time it was refreshed. Is this blogger crazy about money? He wants 6,000 yuan without even giving the travel location? 6,000 yuan is not expensive for travel, but what do you mean by no guarantee of travel time? Don't report me. If you regret grabbing the spot, click on my avatar I was still thinking who would be stupid to grab it, but I didn't expect that the link had been snapped up. Shocking, why is it 6,000 for new customers and 3,000 for old customers? Backquote, please download the anti-fraud app and don't transfer money to others at will. If you regret grabbing the boat ticket, you can click on my avatar and I guarantee you will be satisfied and send a red envelope. I thought she was a liar a long time ago. I didn't see any fan feedback in the comment section for the free lottery till last time. Seeing this comment, Li Baining felt a little guilty. After all, he didn't give any feedback on the video platform. Perhaps it was human selfishness. He and those who had already traveled to the cultivation world fell silent on this matter. Their thoughts are actually very simple. If the news is kept secret for a longer time, there will be fewer people competing with them for the quota in any activities. So after that trip, the blogger's video platform was calm. Even if curious people sent him private messages to ask whether the trip was true or not, he did not reply a word. This led to many people criticizing her in the comment area of the blogger's video. But this time cannot be long, because everyone has relatives and friends. Even he pushed the blogger account to his parents, but unfortunately his parents are watching it as an ordinary special effects video. I don't know if they can support the boat fare this time, but this loophole can't be closed. Just look at the increasing number of comments in the comment area that charge high prices for boat tickets, and you can see it. The first group of Unang Temple Cultivation. The little fish who loves plants. Oh my god, I was just one step slower and didn't get the travel quota. The group leader, I want to become a disciple. A total of 18 boat tickets were released this time, which is too few. I don't know what the crossing boundary flying boat is for. I really want to go and see it. The little fish who loves plants. At least you can have a one-day tour to Linjing. I'm miserable. The first time was because of bad luck, and this time it's because my fingers are not fast enough. The former king, I haven't been in China these days, and I haven't managed to get a boat ticket. The network delay is too unfriendly to us fans abroad. Chingai studies medicine. I've already got one. Hi. Cultivation rookie, at CHENGY studies medicine. Have you seen my eyes? They are red with jealousy. Cultivation rookie. Picture points at the first disciple of the immortal cultivator. Everyone is jealous of me too. I got one too. Oh. Stealing the sky and changing the day. I got one too. But the boat ticket price of 3,000 is a bit high for a college student like me. Does poverty limit my cultivation? The order of the former king. If you want to go, I can support you first. If you really feel the burden is too heavy, I can pay 3 times the price to buy back this ticket. Cultivation newbie. Sell it to me. Sell it to me at the order of the former king. Can at least allow you to have a one-day tour of Lighting, but I haven't even seen the edge of the cultivation world. The little fish who loves plants. I raise my hand to at big brother. Look at me. If you want to sell it, you must consider me. I can also pay 3 times the price. Asking for a monthly ticket. Chapter 198. Quarrel. Li Beining looked at his phone and was completely entangled. On one hand, there was a free one-day tour of Li River, and he could earn 6,000 yuan, and on the other hand, there was a cross-border flying boat that cost 3,000 yuan. For a poor student like him, the first one was undoubtedly the most cost-effective, and he had a hunch that, if he really wanted to practice Taoism, he would probably spend more money in the future. But this was a rare opportunity. Anyone who had watched the video knew that it was difficult to find these few places on the ship. He tentatively called home for help, and the result was obvious. His parents thought he was deceived by others, and then asked him if he had joined any illegal organization. They even called the counselor, and the counselor was so scared that he called him to find out the situation. In the end, he had to talk and make a wish to make the matter come true. Just like that, his parents decided to ask for leave from the unit and buy train tickets to come and see him as soon as possible. He wanted to rely on his parents, but looking at this situation, it is estimated that his parents will not support him in practicing Taoism for a while. But watching the video posted by Yang Zhao in a View 9 temple, he still couldn't let go of the boat ticket. He was so cruel that he rejected the suggestion of selling the quota in the group, which caused a lot of crying in the group. Li Beining also had a bitter face. It was the beginning of May, and he didn't know how to spend this month. At about 4 o'clock in the afternoon of that day, he received a confirmation video from Yang Zhao in a private message, informing him to be ready at 7 o'clock the day after tomorrow. This piece of news made his mood turn from gloomy to sunny. The magnificent and strange world of cultivation. I, Li Beining, am here again. A certain aerospace development and research base. In the office, an old man with half-white hair silently looked at the documents in his hand. Director Wu wants to transfer 5 people from me. The Director Wu sat on the sofa opposite with the other 3 people. Yes, these 5 people will leave tomorrow at the latest. Director Wu, you are quite good at picking. You want the backbone figures in my hands. The old man pointed to a place on the document and asked, what does it mean to return indefinitely? Literally, we are not sure how long it will take, and we are not even sure whether this project can be implemented. Okay, the last question. The old man put down the document and looked at them without sadness or joy. Why do you want to transfer me over? Director Wu said with a smile, because we want you to take charge this time. The document says that I will leave tomorrow, so what about the project I'm working on? How do you want me to hand over my work in such a short time? When the old man raised his eyes, anger appeared in his eyes. Even in the face of the old man's anger, Director Wu remained calm. Mr. Ren, don't worry about it. We have notified the heads of other bases to come here overnight. This is also a major national project. It is impossible for it to go wrong. You just need to follow us. Mr. Ren raised his eyebrows. Why? Did you buy some limited time information that you can't see after tomorrow night? Director Wu smiled. Mr. Ren, this is more urgent than that. The limited time information can be copied, but this time you can only see it with your own eyes. If you miss this opportunity, it will be difficult to see it later. We also held an urgent short meeting, and everyone agreed that this burden is still for you to bear. So for a project that we don't know whether it can be implemented in the end, we have to arbitrarily move our base's personnel and delay the progress of our project. Mr. Ren, if we have more time, we don't want to do this, but time is not controlled by us. Mr. Ren pointed at the documents on the table. I can leave tomorrow, but I reserve the right to report to the organization. At the same time, other aerospace related research institutes and research bases are also transferring personnel. Some are 1 or 2, some are 7 or 8, all of whom are backbone elites, which makes the heads of those projects unhappy, and the phone never stops. On the other side, the secret base office is a different scene. In the office, a group of people surrounded the head of the base and began to output. Why are there only 3 places for us? We are the ones who are conducting the research on magic tools. At least you gave us places. Why don't we have 1 place? This is obviously for the field of aerospace physics. Why do you need places for your biochemistry project? Why can't we in the field of biochemistry have places? Your spacecraft was sent up to study our biochemistry, in addition to astronomy. No matter what, our astronomy research group should be given at least 10 places, right? 10 places. You are really brave to ask for it. There are only 100 vacancies in total, and you directly want 1/10. Then why are we who specialize in the research of cultivation arrays only given 5 places? 5 is not enough. If you want to give it to us, you can give it to us. Among these people, those who did not get a place had opinions, and those who got a place also had opinions. Anyway, they all felt that the places they were given were too few and not enough. The person in charge of the base was afraid that they would quarrel more and more fiercely, so he stood up and appeased them one by one. Everyone, please be quiet. You won't get any results by arguing here. We have only been given 21 quotas, not 1 more. What about the others? Logically speaking, we are the frontier of cultivation research. Who is more qualified than us to have more quotas? Aerospace research and development, aircraft research and development, physical materials research and development, energy research, etc., all of which account for the remaining quotas. These quotas have been determined and cannot be moved. If you keep arguing here, you will tear the roof off me, and there will be no quotas. The others looked at each other and stopped making trouble. They actually knew that these quotas could not be moved. It's just that the team is not easy to lead now. If you, the head of the family, don't fight for your subordinates, how can your researchers work with peace of mind? Even if it's just for show, you have to do it well. Everyone, instead of arguing with me, you might as well give proper instructions to those who are going. The people going this time can't bring macro cameras, so they can only rely on their own eyes and brains. The more they see, and the more they remember, the better. Also, the researchers in our base have a big advantage. That is, many of them can understand and speak the language of the cultivation world, and we can communicate with the people over there. This is an advantage that other research departments don't have. Whoever is going tomorrow night, regardless of whether they have projects on hand, must take a day off, go back to sleep, relax, and cultivate their minds. Tomorrow night is a tough nut to crack. Don't let me get so excited that I can't sleep and waste a spot. It's the end of the month. It's the end of the month. Cast a vote if you have one. Chapter 199, Transmission. The day before leaving, Yang Zhao sorted out the traction beans that were eligible to board the ship from Guofuminqiang, and then separated her 18 fans who were going to board the flying boat. To be honest, when she just posted this link, she thought that the old customers who had come here to travel last time would buy the boarding quota this time, but in the end only 2 of them bought it. I don't know if they were afraid of wasting money or they didn't get it at all. Stepping on the early morning frost, Yang Zhao took his 3 assistants and sent the traction beans for negotiating trade to Shenzhen to facilitate their communication during his absence. Then Yang Zhao asked Shenzhen for instructions, and after obtaining his consent, he gave a red envelope to a maid in the key training period and asked her to help summon the 8 fans who didn't buy boarding tickets tomorrow. I will let my little assistant come to pick them up tomorrow, and then wait for them to send the traction beans back at night. Yang Zhao pointed to the 3 little assistants and showed them to the maid. The maid smiled and nodded at the 3 servants, but Zhang He and the others, both men and women, blushed with shyness, stuttered for a long time, and could not say a word. None of the 3 servants had opened their meridians and spirits, and had no spiritual power to activate the Qianji beans, so they could only find such a middleman. After leaving Shen Sishan's yard, Yang Zhao took the 3 servants into a restaurant and ordered a table of dishes for them. Before the meal, she settled a month's salary for them and told them what they would do tomorrow. Tomorrow, those Kaienji beans will be sent to Mr. Shen after the tour, and someone will take them in. Then she gave Zhang He and the others half a month's salary in advance, so that they could get familiar with Li Jing with pay during her absence. The requirements were the same as last time. This time they had to go farther and find places they had never been to. Write down the mansions, shops, illusions, and legends there in detail with a pen, and give them to her when they come back. In short, she, the boss, left, and she had to find something meaningful for them to do, and couldn't let them be idle. Zhang He and the other 3 gladly accepted the offer, and flattered her without paying, which made Yang Zhao feel comfortable. That afternoon, after finishing her chores, she came to Yang Zhao Guild Hall, and asked the gentleman of Yang Zhao Academy about the schedule for tomorrow's departure. Mr. Lee handed her a wooden identity card of a student of Yang Zhao Academy. Here, this is your ID card. Yang Zhao took it and thanked him, and then asked about tomorrow's schedule. Mr. Lee suggested to her, in fact, you can stay here and leave with us tomorrow, so as not to be delayed by anything. Yang Zhao also considered this option, but there are more than 100 Yang Zhao students living in Yang Zhao Guild Hall now, and I guess there is no room for me to stay. She was very unfamiliar with these Yang Zhao students, and it would be awkward to live in the same room. Besides, she was not used to living in the same room with strangers. Mr. Lee looked at her unhappily and said, "We are all girls, are you still shy? Otherwise, you can find a restaurant on this street to stay for one night and come to us when you wake up early tomorrow. This is also a way." Yang Zhao thanked Mr. Lee and then found a place to stay on this street. Although there are many restaurants and inns on this street, it is difficult to find an empty room. However, because there are many guild halls here, there are always students from various prefectures who don't want to live with others, so they also rent rooms on this street. After finally finding a room, she sat on the bed and started practicing. Yang Zhao originally thought that she would be excited and insomniac, but after taking the elixir and suffering the pain of the meridians burning, she slept better than anyone else. The next day, it was dark, and she was lying on the bed when she heard a noisy sound outside. Yang Zhao sat up smartly and opened the window to see that there were already students from various prefectures outside on the street. Yang Zhao quickly washed up, and after dinner, she hurried to the Yang Zhao Guild Hall to meet the students from the prefecture school. After greeting the teachers early in the morning, she followed the students from Yang Zhao. They were led by the teachers and walked out in a line. There were students from several academies living on this street, and more than 100 people came from each academy. They left the guild hall at the same time, and the students lined up from the beginning to the end of the street. The flags of various prefectures and schools on the street were floating in the air, so that the more than 100 students below would not get lost. These people all had cultivation, and they acted quickly. In less than an hour, they all gathered in a huge square in the east city of Lidong. Following the guidance of the flags of each prefecture and school, they lined up at the designated location. After a while, these students found a good place, and the whole square became quiet. At this time, the sun had risen. There was a tall tower next to the square. Yang Zhao could see many figures standing on the tower, pointing at them. Seeing that everyone had arrived, a majestic voice came from the tower. The voice was clear and loud, and the huge square could hear it clearly. "I'm Zhao Qingping, the ritual priest of the Great Zhao Academy, and I have been ordered to preside over this competition. This competition will be held in Luoyuan to test the performance of the students of the Prefectural Academy on the battlefield. Those with excellent results will be granted official positions in advance, and the academies with excellent results will receive more training resources from the court in the new year. I hope everyone will strive to be the first and perform actively. No more nonsense, you can set off." As soon as he finished speaking, the 5 or 6,000 students in the entire playground shouted excitedly. Then the golden light on the ground rose, and a series of array patterns circled everyone in the square. Yang Zhao felt dizzy, and seemed to have entered a grey-white space in a daze. This space has no up and down, no north and south. She couldn't think at all in it. She just felt that her thoughts were floating and running around, and she couldn't gather together to think about something no matter what. After an unknown amount of time, her eyes lit up, and her scattered thoughts were like darkness encountering sunlight, and they all gathered in the corner in an instant. Only then did she have the ability to think. She took a quick look, and found that everyone was standing in a huge square. There were 5 or 6,000 students who were lively and energetic at the beginning, but now most of them were lying on the ground, vomiting to varying degrees. This scene was a bit confusing, but the teachers from various academies were used to it. They shuffled among those lying on the ground with normal expressions. Some teachers stuffed a small pill into each person's mouth. Some teachers took a bowl of water, dipped their hands in the water in the bowl, and put it between the eyebrows of those students. Some held a large flag, and passed by those lying on the ground. What's more, some took a handful of seeds in their hands, and scattered them on those people. The seeds quickly sprouted, and grew tender green leaves. For a time, the teachers from various academies showed their magical powers to save these students, who were lying on the ground, and couldn't get up. Please vote. Chapter 200, Assignment of Little Bean People. The weather here is similar to spring and autumn, not too cold or too hot, but the wind is a bit strong. But if you look up at the sky, you can find a row of huge strange light sources hanging in the sky. They are rows of street lamps hanging in the sky. People can tell at a glance that they are not natural products. The sky next to the light source is dark and empty, without the color of the sky, and there are no clouds or birds. It seems that this place should have no atmosphere. The monks and spirit beasts are frequent in the sky. Some are on swords, some are on boats, some gather in groups, some walk alone, and some will stay in the sky pavilion for a while, pointing and talking below, and then leave. Yang Zhao took a deep breath, and didn't find anything unusual, then jumped lightly. Unexpectedly, she quickly left the ground, and jumped 3 feet high. She was startled by this sudden change, but quickly stabilized her mind, turned her spiritual power, and quickly fell down. But the gentlemen in those academies were all moving normally and freely, and no one encountered her situation. Yang Zhao tried again, and found that the gravity here was indeed a little small. Suddenly, she felt itchy on her head. She reached out and touched it, and plucked off a small grass that was growing happily. The grass was green and tender, and unusually bright. It was spread by the teachers of Yang Zhao Prefecture School. At first, Yang Zhao didn't even notice that she had such a thing on her head. The students of the entire Yang Zhao Academy had 1 or 2 small grasses on their heads, which were tender and cute. But the effect of this small grass was not bad. With the blessing of these small grasses, those embarrassed people finally got rid of the embarrassing situation of lying on the ground and vomiting, and stood up. For a while, the 5 or 6,000 people in the square all used the cleaning technique at the same time, and the whole scene was spectacular. After these students were cleaned up, the teachers of Yang Zhao Prefecture School put away the tooth flags flying in the sky. We have to stay here for an hour. Those who want to go shopping can go, but don't rush in casually. Gather here on time after an hour. When she heard that the scene was going to end, Yang Zhao was anxious. She was just busy looking at the novelty, and forgot about the beans. She took out the white cloth with the advertisement for recruiting people to carry the traction beans from her Kayankan bag, shook her wrist, summoned the Jayana long spear, hung the white cloth on it, and then activated her spiritual power, sending the Jayana long spear into the air. The wind blew, and the white cloth rustled. Yang Zhao urged the spiritual power to flow into the red line on his wrist, vibrating the contract, and then shouted loudly, "Those who have signed a contract with me, please come to me to get the silver and traction beans." After shouting 3 times, the eyes of the entire playground were focused on her. The person who signed the contract with her in Yang Zhao Prefecture School was next to her, and came to her first. Yang Zhao took out a large bag from his Kayankan bag, transferred spiritual power to the 118 traction beans in the bag, threw it on the ground, to summon the little bean people, and more than 100 little bean people squeezed out a territory in an instant. As soon as some of the little bean people opened their eyes, they couldn't control the expressions on their faces, and looked around with their mouths open. Fuck, IRRR. Is this real? This is not a studio, right? This is not the earth, right? This is not it? 6,000 yuan is worth it. I spent 60,000. It's worth it. Dude, you are rich. Look at the sky. Those are birds. People. Mom. There are people flying in the sky. This is not scientific. Those clouds. Do you think they are water vapor produced by hydrogen combustion? Maybe. So riding on clouds is to use hydrogen combustion to generate kinetic energy. From now on, I will be a disciple of San King, and I will seek immortality and ask for longevity. Yang Zhao looked at the disciple of San King. He didn't expect that someone could say such a second year line. Fortunately, the students in the square didn't understand Chinese and gave her some face. As more and more students who signed the book contract with her came, Yang Zhao had to appease the little bean people. Please be quiet, be quiet. This trip is entirely voluntary. If you want to change your mind, you can think hard and go back automatically, but the travel fee will not be refunded. I will assign you a guide later. 2 people follow 1 guide. You must take care of each other. As soon as she spoke, she naturally attracted all the attention of the little bean people. For a moment, all the shining eyes looked at her. Oh, it's the blogger, Nanyang Temple Yang Zhao. I saw the real person today. So Yang Zhao is really a cultivator. I always thought her video was a special effect. I said a long time ago that the video could not be made by special effects, but no one listened. Master, please accept my greeting. A little bean person was very clever and ran over to bow to Yang Zhao. Several little people suddenly realized and rushed over to kneel on the ground. Yang Zhao looked at the dozen little bean people kneeling at his feet speechlessly. He wanted to cover his face and the playful eyes of the students around him. Fortunately, there were 100 little bean people from the Guofuminqiang side, and they did not follow these people to join in the fun, otherwise it would be even more embarrassing. Yang Zhao could only use his spiritual power to perform telekinesis and lift these little bean people up one by one. You are here for tourism this time. I don't accept disciples here. Please be quiet and wait for 2 people to follow a guide. These guides are also cultivators. Please be respectful to them. After saying this 3 or 4 times, these little bean people finally quieted down and waited for Yang Zhao's arrangements. After calming down the little bean people, she began to greet the students who came over. Please treat the beans with kindness and don't throw them away. The agreement in our contract is that we must take them on the crossing boat. These students said one after another, don't worry, brother Yang, it's just 2 beans. We will abide by the agreement. Don't worry, because this little thing will affect the path of Taoism. It's not worth it. That's right, and what's more, we don't understand what they say, so they can't even bother us. Yang Zhao bowed to them. Thank you very much, fellow Taoists, and please forgive me. Then she gave 2 small bean people to each person, and gave each person 19.5 taels of silver, and before leaving, she had to give a reminder. When you get off the boat, return the beans to me, and you can get another tael of silver. Then she gave the small bean people 2 words in Chinese. Follow your guide closely, and don't lose him, otherwise you can't get on the boat. Although many of these small bean people were excited, and their eyes were green, they still followed behind the cultivators honestly, and promised her that they would never run around. Don't worry, blogger. We will supervise each other and help each other. The whole distribution process took only a cup of tea. Yang Zhao paid the money happily, and the little bean people did not cause her any trouble, which saved her a lot of time. The 2 little bean people left at the end with her own quota. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.